So let it be written. So let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors, and we're going to play some dungeon crawl, deadly D&D. We are using the Oath of the Frozen King Adventure Kit. You can see that link below in the comments. We are kickstarting this right now. It's the world's first modular module, coined by the infamous DMJ. I'm going to jump right in with a little bit of lore, but the Adventure Kit is everything you need and nothing that you don't. And I'm going to prove that tonight. I've only prepped a very basic lore-filled beginning, and then we're going to kind of just see where things go. And as I use pieces of the kit, what I'll do is probably just clue you in after the fact. Hey, I used this piece, or hey, this is what I did. But we're going to have some fun. You are joining us around the table right now. We're just a few dudes playing some D&D. So, welcome, ye viewers, to the frontiers of old Dragongrin. It's decades before Lightfall. In fact, Gulvaris, the man who would eventually become known as the Dismembered Lord, is just a boy. He's not yet even tasted the bitterness of tragedy. The bleak? It's not even a worry for the common man. Those arcane drizzles are a far-off inconvenience for the prosperous northerners of Uldane and their ilk. But the frontiers of old Dragongrin are unforgiving, mysterious. They're as beautiful as they are deadly. The four of you have been chosen as an absolute last resort. I mean, you're certainly better than nothing, but you're nothing special. You are the final defense if the heroes of the nearby city of Varlith fail to defeat the Frozen King. I mean, your instructions were simple. Raska, the strongest of the village, said, "Follow us as we descend. If in 3 days we have not returned, the fate of Varlith and all of Varnholm rests in your hands. If we fail, you must slay the Frozen King." Now you're deep in the icy guts of the tomb of the Frozen King. Your safety was ensured to you because you just traveled in the wake of Ruska and his powerful party. But it's the end of the 4th day, and you haven't heard from them. There's no sign of Ruska, Mirda, or Vul. It's time to fulfill your duty. You stand before the tomb of the Frozen King himself. You stand before his very chamber, and it's eerily silent. Fog creeps from the partially open door. What are each of you doing as you prepare to walk through this door and die at the hands of the Frozen King?
Dr. Derry is doing something that by now his 3 companions, Tracy, Mutt, and Savorus, are aware of. He is backing away from the door with his book in his hand and allowing people to move in front of him, but he's doing it under the guise of doing research in the back because there's too many distractions up here. So he's eyeing his book and eyeing those around him as he slowly steps backward away from the entrance.
Aye, Derry, we've seen this before. Get your ass up here, come on. You're the first to die by his hand. Don't play that with me.
And no one will die here today. No, sir.
And Tracy, knowing he was sort of the as it was put earlier, bench warmers, pardon the pun for the icy place, basically is ready to go in and assumes in some part of his brain that the Frozen King will be frozen, just a skeleton there, that we will loot and come back, go back to Varlith and pretend that we did this really great thing, and then just came back with the spoils or whatever. He assumes that the Frozen King is absolutely a myth, and they're going to go in there and loot it, even though in a small part of his brain he knows that he might be marching to his death.
You see a tiefling that's just like wrapped in every possible shred of anything it could find, shivering, teeth actually chattering. Well, let's get it over with. Come on.
And beside that tiefling is something that you might mistake for like a garbage bag full of leaves. But as he kind of turns around, you can see that it is actually a creature. He looks like sort of the size and stature of a dwarf, but his skin is kind of this mottled stone gray, and it's sort of peeling in different areas from exposure to the sun. He sort of wipes his hand across his nose and then wipes it on his shirt. And he kind of like wiggles a loose tooth in his mouth, making sure that it's still there, and goes, all right then, let's go in and see what's up. If they ain't come back, they've either died or taken the treasure and ran.
No. Don't be hasty. Hasty leads you to the pit, and he will look at the door and see if he can see any like inscriptions or something, knowing that his friends are fully desiring to enter into the tomb of the Frozen King. He would first try to examine it.
Sure, and you're a studied man, a studious man, yes?
Yes, but he's not wise, so I'd probably say that very loudly.
Perfect. And so give me some sort of roll, and it can be probably an intelligence-based check, and you can do Arcana or History or anything that you think he would be proficient in, and then I'll tell you what you know.
That's a 24 History.
Wow, that's fantastic. So a little bit behind the scenes here. What I'm doing is I'm actually going to the location section of the adventure kit. And what I'm going to do is use a piece of this to give you something that works. So I go to the Frigid Tomb. And so now I'm going to improv some stuff that you would find out using the roll. And that's the beauty of the adventure kit. So specifically, you notice that there is this black ice that covers the doors. And in this black ice, you can see that there are these carvings. And as you get close to them, the air is so cold that it pains your nostrils to pass through them. And so you recognize these carvings from a book that you haven't read, but that someone else read, and you probably pretend that you've read.
And I can't tell what they mean or anything, but I know that...
I'll put it to you this way. You know that they are from the Frozen King, that they seem to be some sort of ward or protective inscription to keep him trapped in his tomb. And you know that they're probably around this area, perhaps on various items or weapons, but specifically on this door to keep him inside.
Ah, the Veil of Montanus. And he will examine these carvings, and he'll look to Tracy, and who he knows might not even believe in the Frozen King. And he says, this is a treat for you. And he motions towards the engravings and explains everything to his companions. Oh, yes. These were put here to keep something in. And he looks to Tracy, not out.
Should we knock?
No response, just maybe a scoff as you hear poof, the book that he's holding closes and dust flies up.
Tim, you mentioned that is this an actual door, like a open, closed door?
Yeah, I imagine it as being. I'll tell you how I imagine it, and then you can kind of go back and forth with me and see if you have any changes. But I imagine it as a double door, very large, classic, large iron rings, and this black ice that sort of covers it has these etchings in it. And so it's the classic 2-ring pull hard double door, and it is opened and not shut all the way as of now.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of slightly ajar.
It is slightly ajar.
Okay, cool. So I was gonna walk up and check it for any sort of weirdness, but if it's slightly ajar, I probably wouldn't bother. Oh, unless there's like a tripwire on the other side. I might walk up and kind of after Derry's done talking about his stuff, whatever it is that he's talking about, I'm not paying attention. I sort of walk up and I'll just kind of like, I'll do that kind of like thing where I just sidle up to the door and I do like a quick little, like just kind of duck my head like in between the doors, just kind of like looking on the other side.
And I would, unless you want to describe if he sees anything, Tim. Okay. So I would probably go up and actually take my staff and just kind of maybe just ever so slightly go through that opening with it, move it up a little bit, just seeing, is there anything, am I meeting resistance? Is anything happening? And I'm kind of doing so like almost back at an angle, looking rather ridiculous.
And I can see the pair of you sort of doing this in concert where you're like, and then we've got just like, you guys are just trying to see if anything happens. And the only thing that happens is the climbing, crawling fog that's pale and is just sort of bubbling out, wisps in the air as you wave your staff. And as the staff cuts through, it gives our human garbage Duergar friend a quick glimpse of the interior. And it looks like, at first glance, this strange ice sculpture that just fills the room.
So Mutt will kind of lean back in and he goes, "Oi!" And his tooth falls out and he kind of like leans down and picks it up off the ground and he's kind of like putting it back in his gum and he says, "Some sort of like sculpture in there, some such. Can't quite make it out."
Well, are we gonna go in or not?
Yeah, let's go in. I want to see what those heroes had on them.
No, Don, no looting until I record everything, of course.
All right, Barry, come on. And he would kind of like, if he were behind Barry, would put his hand on his back and like push him, not like through the door, but just like sort of toward. And I imagine Barry's small enough that he might stumble a little. And Tracy would walk up and with his mace, the end of his mace, just push the door open.
So as you do this, and clouds of icy cold fog roll over all of you. It's difficult for it to get colder, as cold as you are, but this does the job. And so in that instant, it almost feels like the water on your eyeballs is on the verge of freezing. And so when you walk in, you immediately see this room is carnage. And what you thought was a frozen sculpture appears to be a battle that took place with frost settling over it. So immediately, Tracy, as you push the door open and this, you see to your right, Raska, the strongest man in the village. You know his face well. and it looks up to you with dead eyes. There's just this thin, unremarkable, like flimsy axe buried into the back of his head. And his dead face is frostbitten as it looks at you. Half a dozen skeletons lay slain about him, but they overtook him. As you can see, their hands are buried into his side, and there are multiple deep slashes and stab wounds that are now becoming a sickening purple in the frost. Ruska's dead, and he was killed by several skeletons.
All right, well, that's odd if I've ever seen it. Come on, Barry. What do you make of this?
It's Derry, and it's Dr. Derry. And he steps forward, but his face, as he sees the eyes of Ruska, his face will become placid like the ice sculpture of living matter, and he will begin, the first thing we should do is to take account of the others. Murder and Vul, do we see them anywhere?
And as you say that, you do see Murda. She lies next to the throne of the Frozen King himself. Her rib cage is obliterated. It's paste, likely by the powerful maul that the Frozen King carries. Myrda was powerful. Myrda was fierce. So you're not surprised at what else you see. You could see that she dealt the killing blow to the Frozen King himself. His frozen heart lies pierced by her blade, and her fiery hair is splayed, intermingled with blood and frost.
You might see a bead of sweat drip down Dr. Derry's face, but it would freeze to his face, and he would immediately be overwhelmed with a new emotion, one that is more scholarly. Upon seeing the heart of the Frozen King, he would move to that to examine it, but it would probably take him a little bit of time while other people did things.
I think Mutt would, upon seeing the combat, would sort of be like, oh shit, and he'd kind of like come and get an arrow out of his quiver and sort of put his back to the wall, and then seeing that the combat is over and everything is dead, he would ease a little bit, and he would immediately sidle up to what was the name of the first hero we saw, the strong guy?
Ruska.
He would sidle up to Ruska, and he would see that axe embedded in his head, and he'd be like, that's not a bad axe. And he'd reach up and try to kind of wrench it out of the guy's skull.
There's a wet crunch as though you were pulling this axe out of a frozen melon. Not bad. Not good. But not bad.
Oh, that's disgusting. It's not enough that we have to deal with the cold. Oh.
And as you're saying this, he's kind of like flicking like brain matter off of it. Like he's flicking a booger off his finger, just kind of like getting all the stuff off of it. And he wipes it on his pants and just kind of tucks it into his belt. And then kind of looks down, kind of like pleased with himself. Like, yeah, got a new axe.
And Savros kind of bends over and he's just, but he makes his con save and barely.
Well, and as you're bent over doing that, you're lucky enough to find Vul. So as you do that, this must be Vul, or at least what's left of him. It looks like the wolves got to him, and they weren't kind. And so this is the tatters of a human that you've just released your sick onto.
Yeah, and so I kneel right there and just heave, and then I immediately like kind of crawl away, like oh, and I'm like just sliding across the ground here, crawling away.
Yeah, and the vomit freezes fairly quickly.
Great. It makes it smell better.
Oh, this worked out better than we could have imagined. They're all dead. Frozen King dealt with. We can just loot, go home, say we did it. Get the prize, right?
Right.
And not forget to report everything, yes?
Glory, glory, glory. I'm in.
Now, hang on, Doc. Listen, when you record it, when you write it down, say that what we walked in, they was all dead, but the Frozen King wasn't, and then we finished him off. We dealt the killing blow. That's the right. Everyone's on the same page with that.
Oi, hell yeah.
But that would be perjury.
No, that would be us getting a payday. So just write that down. What I just said, but make it sound prettier, like you do.
He would take a gander at that new axe that you're holding in your hand, probably waving around flamboyantly while you're talking. And
Yeah, and there's like bits of stuff coming off of it, just like.
Of course, we dealt with the Frozen King, and you dispatched the Frozen Heart itself. As he
Boy, and
maybe
it
examines
was you yourself that collected the frozen eye, wasn't it? He
Yes,
says
yes.
to Derry.
Now, whatever you say, I am clearly not the one in charge here.
Yeah, he's kind of trying to rope Derry in and give him something to get excited about, but it's not working. He's too honest.
And as you are saying this, and it's clearly, Derry, it's clear that you're uncomfortable with it, but that discomfort melts away as you see and almost feel this glowing blue presence. The heart of the Frozen King is pierced. But it thrums ever so gently. And you can see that in Mirda's other hand, there's a crown of bone and ice. And it looks as though she's stolen it off the Frozen King's head, and his face catches your eye. And I want you to roll me a will save.
Right in the middle of Derry saying, magnificent, pierced, and still it thrums with pulsating energy. And in the middle of that, he sees the Frozen King's eyes and rolls a 1. Not a natural 1. That's a 4 minus 3. So there you go.
Sure. So describe to me what it looks like as the gravity of all of these tales and all this research that you've done about the Frozen King washes over you. This is very real to you in this instant. And all of those tales, how does this feel to you as a man of science?
There's something that Derry has never realized, and maybe this is one of the first moments that he does. Everything that he can learn about in books, everything he can learn about history, everything he can learn about religion and the arts, he can dip his nose in every single book ever written, and still he would find himself on the fence, looking out at the primal, raw world and still not knowing what created it, that there just might not be enough information. But he's staring now, staring at the eyes of the Frozen King himself, he realizes that he's seeing something else, not something scholarly, not something that you can read in a book or write down. He's seeing raw, primal, animal instinct. He's seeing chaos. He's seeing the word that the people of the world cannot describe because they don't have the tongues of gods, and so they call it evil. And he's drowning in that emotion.
And the effect that has on you is that the next attack or skill check that you make, you're going to remember exactly what you just said. And it's going to be fresh in your mind as though you're seeing it all over again, and you're going to roll at disadvantage.
You all right, Doc?
He doesn't answer. He's still staring at the Frozen King. It might take a little more.
And Mutt would sort of exchange glances with the other two companions. Is he all right?
It would not appear so, but we have to keep moving.
Yeah, Tracy just lets out a sound. Ugh.
I would actually go over to Dr. Derry. Yeah, there we go. Doc.
Oh, yes, of course. Just 2 sugars, please. And he stares directly into Severus's face, realizing what he said, realizing this is not tea time, and but he's still shaken. Of course. And then he turns back to the frozen heart. Look at it. Can you feel any magic around it with your arts?
And I would actually nope, I'm actually going to kind of just hold out my staff and mutter some words, and I'm going to cast Detect Magic on it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you also need me to make the will save or
I actually want you to fly backward 10 feet and take a D4 of psychic damage.
Even better. All right, that'll be 4 damage. Oh, I kind of close my eyes and I imagine my staff just goes flying first, and then I go like the lightest thing first, and then then this not so heavy 130-pound sack of body goes flying at the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of, oh.
You did the magic equivalent of putting a fork in a light socket to see if it worked. Like, let's see. Unless there's anything else in particular that all of you would like to do, we zoom out and we realize that you are in the bottom of this tomb, the depths. Ruska and his warriors were successful, but it cost them their lives. And now you, with nary a piece of weapon, gear, or item between you, you're the ones that the village offered up because they had to find others. It's up to you to just escape this place with your lives. And as we sort of zoom out, we're panning through all these different rooms because the Frozen King is dead. And now all of the things that feared him are crawling out of the recesses of this tomb to see who the new ruler is going to be. Can you escape the tomb of the Frozen King?
Probably not.
Rhetorical question.
And that is what we're going to talk about today. I am Tim with Tabletop Terrors. We're going to do some brief introductions. This is I think, a cool example of how versatile the Oath of the Frozen King adventure kit is. And that is what we are kickstarting right now. If you click in the link below there in the dungeon, understand that the adventure is going to be generated entirely just using the adventure kit. Okay. The core concept behind what the kit does is it's that RPG sweet spot. It's right between a pre-written adventure module and your own prep notes. It's versatile, it's flexible, and as I go through and sort of use it, like I said, I won't be shy about saying, hey, I'm going to use this piece of the kit to answer that question, et cetera, et cetera. But let's hear from these beautiful people, and we'll go from my right to the left, starting out with Nate.
My name is Nate, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight, and I run the YouTube channel WASD20, and that's about all I have to say. Oh, and I'm playing Severus, who is a tiefling sorcerer with a whopping 7 strength and not too fond of uncomfortable circumstances.
Yeah, love how you're playing him so far. Oh, it's going to be so much fun to kill him. Next, it's Matt.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I run the channel A Fistful of Dice, and I write RPG books over at AbsoluteTabletop.com. Tonight I am playing Mutt, who is a half Duergar bag of garbage, and he's going to be a lot of fun to play. He's a rogue, and I want to make it clear that we all of us rolled our stats 3d6 straight down the line, and then we were able to swap a couple of them if we wanted. I ended up with 9, 13, 12, 9, 7, 7 after racial modifiers. So I'm barely alive. I'm just falling apart. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Jamesy boy.
Yeah, so Tracy is slightly better. I did get a 15, and with racial modifiers, I have a 9 and a 7, but the rest are 10s and 11s. So not too bad. I have an actual armor class that's not basically a negative number like the rest of these guys. And yeah, I'm half of Tabletop Terrors with Tim. This is going to be a lot of fun. Just sort of a survival. Like he said, he's running it backward, which is really cool because we are now trying to escape the Maw of Black Ice, where the Frozen King was entombed and killed without, like you said, basically nothing. I imagine our gear was broken or something else as we got here, marching to our deaths. Tracy is a dwarf, a dwarven fighter that is, well, so far, hopefully he can find like an axe and a shield or something. Otherwise, he's not going to get very far.
And a lady. We hope he finds a lady. Barker.
Finds a lady in the Maw of Black Ice. So Barker today is playing Dr. Winston Bartholomew Derry, or Dr. Derry. He is incredibly smart for how much of an idiot he is. His stats, since we're all lining them up down the line, are 8, 9, 10, 16, 5, 7. He's also a cunning linguist. I don't know if that's cunning. He's not very cunning, but he is a linguist. And he's a wizard, but a human wizard. But I am kind of focusing on the sage, his background, more than I'm focusing on the spell casting. So it ought to be very fun seeing how you kill him too. Really throwing this out there, part of me was wondering, like, how is Tim going to run this thing that almost all of us had a hand in making, and already he's thrown it for a loop by having us do it backwards. That's a brilliant, cool little framing device, and I'm super stoked.
I'm really excited. And to just emphasize what we're going for as far as the flavor of tonight, it's a little bit old school D&D. Now, I'm a tourist, so I'm not a hardcore OSR person, but I borrowed a cool, I think, smattering that I got from the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. Thanks for everybody's help with the suggestions. So a couple of things you're going to see tonight, and I want to tell the viewers and the players as well. One, I think old school dungeons had nothing to do with challenge ratings. It was all about where you were wandering, and you are who you are. If you wander into a challenge that's way too powerful, that's your fault. So I'm not going to be focusing on challenge ratings at all. I'm going to randomly generate this stuff. So there is a chance that at any moment there could be a TPK. The entire group's okay with that, including myself, even if it's only lasts an hour. The second thing is that we're going to be using, I think, the OSR flavor that not everything is perfectly gelled together in tone and feel. It's like sometimes there's a vampire rhinoceros, and sometimes there's a werebear dire badger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll some random stuff, and I'm going to go with every roll that I make. I'm not changing anything or reskinning it. It's going to be that old school, like, what? A frost worm bear? So that's two things. And then the final thing is we're going to be using something called usage die, where to just use your weapon in Weather This Cold, it's going to cost you. And we'll explain that more when we get to it. So I want to do this old school style and kind of talk it out with you guys. Where would you like to go now that you know you need to escape with your lives and ascend the Mauve Black Ice? Pick your poison.
So, like, are there doors or... Because given that broad a question, I'm like, I'd like to go out, please. Do we know where that is? Do we have any idea?
Sure. So I'm going to improv the rooms and the encounters using the kit. So the concept of this is that you sort of followed this powerful adventuring party down as the bench warmers. They killed the Frozen King, got killed themselves, and now you have to try to remember to go back up. So let me ask you this question. Would any of you have mapped your way?
Absolutely not.
I think Barker can say if not, but I think Derry would have, if he's keeping record of everything.
Not to say that he would have done it well, but he certainly would have tried to do it.
Well, Derry doesn't really necessarily have the equipment to properly map it out. So he would have counted on clues left by Raska, Murda, and Vul. So probably dispatched enemies. So that's probably how they got down here. Like, oh man, this room was vanquished, so that must mean our friends were here. Let's find the next vanquished room. So I guess we're just going to Derry would try to find the way back out using that same method. But he doesn't have any piece of chalk or anything that he's been using to mark his territory.
Like trying to find the way out in a video game, you're like, oh, there's dead people. Or the way you're supposed to go, you're like, these guys are dead, so this is clearly not the way we have to go.
I've already opened these bookcases. There's no healing potions here. We've been here.
Exactly. We've already been here.
Yeah. So I guess Derry would definitely be the one to take the lead, and of course I can get us out of here. Yes. Come on. And he would open his book to some random page, pretending as if it would somehow help him, but it's just all about the look.
And also based on what Mutt found before we left, I would absolutely, if we don't have any real equipment or anything, I would try and scavenge for something, anything that could be used as a weapon, whether a weapon or someone's rib bone or whatever.
Cool. I'm going to base it on the luck of the roll. So I want you to choose whether that's investigation, something that you think would work, survival even. And then
I do have some. No, wait. I have proficiency in survival, and it's a -1.
Yes, it's amazing.
So not survival. I think I would love to do investigation because that's just a flat roll.
Sure. So let's go ahead and do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the toolbox. So at the back of the adventure kit is a toolbox, which is basically for this very reason. I rummage around and look at the tools that I need. For me, I'm going to go to the common items and loot table. And if he rolls well enough, maybe he's going to get a trinket. If he doesn't, maybe he's going to get a trap.
So I did not roll very well. I rolled a 1 on the die.
A 1 on the die?
No modifier. So it's a 1 on the die, which also equals a 1.
Okay, no, that's perfect. So this is the perfect opportunity to have you roll me a d6.
Oh, 6. Good job, Tracy. You did it, buddy.
Perfect. So you actually need to make a wisdom save.
Good. Oh, 13. That's not so bad.
Okay. So let's see. Okay. So what happens is, as you're searching around the room, how are you doing this? How does a guy like Tracy look for stuff? Because it seems like it would be kind of fun to watch.
It is absolutely looking is a poor even thing to call it. He's not doing it any way that makes sense or anyway. He's just like tossing people over and kind of having no concern for the dead, both because of his lifestyle in general and because he knows where they are and what has happened. He would absolutely be looking for whatever weapon the Frozen King used. So just kicking stuff around and moving stuff and just no respect for the dead is sort of the whole theme of the thing. He doesn't care if somebody has crushed ribs. He's looking to see if one of said ribs could be used as maybe a stabbing weapon.
So there's this cool glowing thing that you find. and you just can't stay away from it. You know you shouldn't touch it. You know you shouldn't touch it, but you push it with your thumb, and the wave of cold that blasts your face deafens you.
Yeah, I would even say that Tracy looks at it, looks to his left and right to make sure nobody's paying complete attention, and he would mash it with his fist like, let's see what this shit does. Like, just so deliberate. But sorry, so it deafens me.
It literally deafens you. And so it deafens you for, let's do, yeah, so you're going to be deafened for an hour.
Mop, mop, mop.
So whatever this thing was, a glyph, a ward, you pushed it and it went off, and you don't find a weapon. You found deafness.
What in the world was that?
Honestly, I don't know, he screams.
You don't need to be so loud. Shh.
Yeah, always shut up. You're gonna, whatever's in here, you're gonna draw them down right to us.
What? I can't hear you.
Shut up, man.
I would actually kind of smack him on the head with my staff, like just.
Oi. Oh.
So Tim, I also kind of like root around the room. I rolled a 12 perception, and I imagine that Mutt is sort of focusing on coinage and usable weapons and trinkets. And I imagine that he's sort of like checking like the hands of the heroes. And at one point he like kind of breaks one of their hands off because it's been frozen for so long. And he sort of like sheepishly tries to put it back, and it doesn't connect. It just kind of drops on the ground, and he sort of moves on.
So the first thing I'm going to have you do is roll a d20 on the common items and loot table, just because I think that you're a scrappy dude who could scrounge up some coin.
I got a 6.
Okay, so a 6. It says that you found a fur and bone talisman.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so we can decide what that does later and kind of figure that out. But you also found 1d6 copper pieces.
Ooh, let me roll that. 4 copper pieces. So I imagine that the copper pieces I just kind of managed to fish out of like the hero's pockets, and the talisman I take off of the woman who ended up killing the Frozen King. I imagine her talisman is kind of like embedded in the remains of what was her face and upper torso, and I kind of fish it out from that gore, and again just kind of flick all the little stringy bits of flesh off, and kind of just put it on, and oh yeah, looks pretty nice.
That's perfect. If this wasn't such a terrifying dungeon delve, I'd give you inspiration, but I won't.
There's no inspiration for you here, boy.
No, it's too cold for all that, son. And just to kind of give you guys an inside peek of what happened, when James rolled a 1, I just scrolled down to the trap generator, and I decided to let him roll a d6 of what kind of save was needed. He chose wisdom. I went down to the trap consequences, rolled up some cold damage, and he was deafened, and it was that easy. So that's what the toolbox is for, and it's able to run these quick, things that are still tied into the core mechanics of the game. So, awesome.
That was awesome. Derry's probably right outside the room. He has a torch. That's the one thing he brought in, and he's going to be scanning the walls for these kind of symbols and attempting to hold the torch and hold the book and take this kind of charred wood from a fire earlier or something, and he's trying to scrawl them down to copy them in the book. And as Mutt maybe walks out or comes nearby, he'll say, "You find any money in there? Anything of value?" And he holds out his bag, kind of a loot bag that everyone's supposed to put everything in.
No, couldn't find anything. He says, obviously wearing a piece of jewelry he didn't have when he walked in the room.
Derry doesn't take any note. He's staring at the markings. Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, too bad. Well, hey, maybe there'll be something we find on the way out, though.
And Severus actually notices the amulet or whatever, and just kind of lifts it up and says, "Looks like you found something."
What is? Okay, yeah, I did find that. Yeah. So
What is that?
Some sort of talisman that the woman had on her, the one they did the Frozen King in. She was wearing it.
You said Derry's holding a bag open to put stuff in.
Yeah,
like
I
to
imagine
collect
that.
stuff.
Yes, or some sort of, I don't know, maybe it doesn't have a bag, but it's an empty, and
Well,
it's
no, I
just
just-
kind of the thing that he's
Yeah.
using to record all the items that are found, and he's just trusting you guys, to be honest.
Well, basically, having no idea what's going on because I'm deaf for the next hour, Tracy comes over and he goes, "Oh, is that something for me?" And he reaches his hand in there and like starts rooting around like it's a gift bag. What does he find in it? What's in there now? Like, if he pulled something out, what would it be? Like a candle, or like would he poke himself on like a quill or something?
It'd be half a piece of of shattered coin that's worthless at this point, that they found that maybe that Raska had left as a sign that they had been here, and the other half was presumably in the tomb of the Frozen King.
And so he pulls that out and just looks at it and kind of gives you a look and just drops it back in like, "Oh, okay, I guess." Like just completely confused.
Did something make him dumber?
Don't know how that be possible.
Anyway, we should find our way out of here. And do we hear any like reverberations of all the creatures that are kind of awakening in this place? Do we hear anything?
Sure. Why don't you give me a roll? See if you do hear anything.
That was the natural 20, which is great because I have horrible perception. But I imagine I was the one outside in the quiet while they were all inside. So that maybe is why I was able to hear something or perceive whatever you're about to tell me or not tell me.
It's so painfully quiet in this tomb that you know you're probably going to die. And what you hear is the stirring of things that have long been asleep. And in fact, you would probably, as you listen, specifically hear to the corridor on your right, some kind of scraping and shuffling of what you would guess would be feet on ice.
And because I was supposed to roll at disadvantage, I'm going to roll what I have, and assuming I would not have succeeded with an 8, I'm going to assume that happened in the corridor on the left. Is that okay?
That's what I was going to suggest. I was going to say, oh, did I say the right?
Yeah, right there. There's something here. Somebody, he points to Tracy. Oh, no. And then he points to Severus and points to the kind of the left passageway. There's something scraping there. Some sort of unnatural noise.
Severus immediately tenses up and just, and I would kind of sidle up actually behind Tracy, his muscular frame.
And Tracy, kind of not being able to hear this, but seeing it, would kind of get ready and look, almost like instinctually reach to his belt, as though a person in our time would try to look for their keys. And he would reach and realize he didn't have a weapon and kind of just put his fists up and look around, like not sure, expecting something to come at him.
And I would actually say to him, "Are you ready for this?"
And if you were behind him, he would not hear you at all because he is deaf currently. So if you said that, if you didn't tap on him or anything, he would just continue looking forward, like ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just kind of be like, kind of shaking it off, like, whatever.
And I would position myself in the far back of the group. So to be clear, I am the farthest away from the corridor to the left, and my back is on the corridor to the right, just to be clear.
And you hear this scraping. Very faint, distant scraping. And as you sort of approach and enter, especially Tracy, quite prepared for fisticuffs. These broad dwarven hands. You see that it is half of a skeletal warrior as he drags himself across the icy floor, probably trying to get out himself.
Oh, hell, one of them's still alive. Look. Tracy, go, step on him or whatever you do.
Would there be any motion accompanying that phrase? Like, if you said that, would you be like, point or anything? But if you just said that out loud, I would just be like,
you just
like,
see me go.
ready.
You just see me like point at you, and then point at the skeleton, and like make like a smushing motion.
If you did any sort of smushing, Tracy would go and like do a jump with 2 feet on it. I imagine he still at least has boots on. He would jump and like 2 feet on like whatever would be this thing's head, like as close to it as possible.
Sure. And take a D4 piercing damage from his spiked helmet. And you crush him. And you see that there's a brittle, cracked short sword in his right hand.
So he would, kind of do that and like hurt himself a little bit, and maybe try not to let anyone realize what had just happened after, absolutely impaling his foot and destroying his boot on this spike. But he would grab the short sword and turn around, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but even though he's not talking because he understands now finally what has happened, he would hold it up and wave it as though his motions were yelling to you. Like, he's not being subtle. He's like just like very excited, but in a way that is like, oh, I know you guys can't hear me, even though you can. He's like just waving this cracked, broken short sword basically around.
And as you do that, Derry, you actually sort of mistakenly realize that the way the skeleton was crawling is the correct way out. You recognize a pattern or one of the things that you took note of on your way down, perhaps something you wrote in your notebook. And you do realize that's it. That is the corridor. Had you gone the other way, you probably would have gone deeper into the maw of ice. But this is the way. And so for the rest of the game, what I'm going to do, because I think it'll feel cool in OSR, my plan was, we're going to play it out in various nights. So this is the first cold night. And meaning, we're going to do kind of episodic, like you're slogging through the dungeon. And I want it to just be like, oh, you barely escaped this, you missed this, etc. And then we're going to role play out the cool, deadly encounters. So we're going to start with night 1, but then we might jump to night 6 when something crazy happens, and then night 12. And so eventually what we're going to do is try to get you out of this dungeon in like maybe a couple of weeks. And
So
I
was going to say, I don't think you've played it, but that reminds me very much of the style of the game Darkest Dungeon, in that sense, where it's not like quite like weeks or anything, but just you go in and you're like, for anyone that has played it, because it's hard to describe, it feels that way, where you go in every room, you're like, I hope there's not something here that's going to kill me. And you get there and you just pray and you're good. There's like a healing shrine. And then you get to like a thing and it's like a chest, and you open it, it's a trap, and you're like, son of a... So I'm just going Darkest Dungeon. Like, Tracy is a little Darkest Dungeon drawing right now.
And that's what I kind of want to do. And so I figured that would be the final way to kind of just do some cool encounters. I'm going to roll up random encounters, and you guys can narratively, describe different things in the room, but I'm going to basically throw these challenges as you try to ascend. And then at the end of each night that we do, that's when you're going to do your weapon usage die and see if your stuff breaks. So I just thought that would be kind of cool. So, the first cold night. So, Derry, as you sort of have led the group blindly for a couple of days and gotten them maybe lost, maybe a little closer towards the top, you come upon this room. And you can't recall if you wrote it down in your notebook because you went through it, or if you wrote it down in your notebook because you thought you should stay out of it. What do you do?
At this point, I imagine Dr. Derry is feeling pressure from his companions, in that he probably has made a couple wrong turns. Maybe they expected to be out by now. So he is looking at that page, and he says, "Oh yes, of course, this is where we should be." Because to say anything otherwise would mean we have to go back for 2 days. So he will look chipper, though anyone who perhaps would have any insight into him would know that it's a wavering happiness as he begins to, I don't know, examine the room to see what's in there again.
And the first thing you notice is the large rusted lock on the door.
Was this a door that we had traveled through before, or is this a new?
So the way I like to look at it is, this is a door that you passed and you made notes in your notebook, but maybe you scrawled it wrong, or maybe you can't decide what wording you used, but you either think you should really, really go in there, or you should really, really avoid it, and you can't remember which one.
I would say
you
that
haven't been in there.
the only reason that there must be a lock here is because it's a shortcut, of course, out of here. By placing the lock, the Frozen King ensured that those who trespassed into the dungeon would have to take the most arduous route out. I am most sure that this will lead us out and to warmth finally.
And Mutt, with his 9 intelligence, is just kind of like, has his face like, yeah, that makes sense.
So, what do you think, Severus?
I'm eager to get out of here, that's for sure. An axe would do it, probably. And I look at Mutt.
What? Break my new axe on the lock? No. This requires a deft hand. Stand aside, gentlemen. And he'll kind of, and he spits, and the spit is like black, like when it hits his hand, and he just kind of like rubs the black spit all over his hands, does this with his fingers, and limps towards the door. He has a limp too, by the way. He limps towards the door and fishes out his rusty thieves' tools and is going to sort of inspect the lock and do his best to unlock it.
Sure. And so I think the first thing you notice is how old this lock is.
Yeah.
What'd you roll?
So with my thieves' tools, I rolled a 5. I got +5, so 10 total on the thieves' tools check.
All right. So I believe that you're able to. I believe you're able to open that lock.
So I just kind of, I sort of jam the tools in there and just jiggle them around until this ancient lock just almost kind of breaks rather than unlocks. And it just kind of falls off the door and hits the ground with this solid thud. And Mutt starts to go open the door and then kind of goes, all right, who wants to go first?
And I imagine that similar to the short silence that I gave you guys, maybe it would be a little bit longer and everybody would be looking at each other. And Tracy would do like a point, like he'd look at you guys and like point at himself and like shake his head like in questioning. Like, me?
And Mutt would point at him and point at the door, and again.
And so Tracy with his newfound. So you said I have a short sword. Is it just a regular short sword? Is it less? I think a short sword's a D6, right?
Sure.
I don't know if that's right, but I'll take it. But basically, it's a short sword. It's a Vorpal short sword, +1 masterwork. No, so basically, Tracy would kind of face the door, and assuming standing in the doorway, nothing immediately attacked him, he would sort of trudge through, looking around a lot more than he might otherwise, knowing that he absolutely had no hearing at all. Actually,
Sure.
If it's been a night, he's probably not deaf anymore, right? Or
That's correct.
Okay, so he's not deaf anymore.
He's not deaf anymore, yeah.
I'm
Sorry,
still
that was
going to
my
treat
fault.
him like he's deaf, though.
That's fair. It was an hour. He's still acting like he's deaf, even though he can hear you now. So.
And so, as you charge through this door, you notice that the floor is soft. It's shifting. Powdery snow. It seems almost soothing compared to what you've been trudging through.
Is this something that we can look through the door and see?
Oh, absolutely.
See, it's as I predicted. There's no tracks here, no pressing in the snow. Still light and fluffy. This is our way out of here, I believe. And he does laugh in that way, like he's laughing for himself at the expense of the others around him, who didn't have faith.
Yeah, and as you kind of walk in even more, the powdery snow gets a little deeper and a little deeper until it's almost to your shins. And then some icy chains sort of graze your shoulders. And if you look up, you see that there are dozens and dozens of icy chains hanging from the ceiling.
I would kind of walk in, and I'm just gonna kind of hug the wall a little bit, trying not to walk under the chains at all, and say, all right, well, we need to get through here. I don't like the look of those.
And across the way, you can make out what looks to be a door, but this powdery snow is pushed against it, and you'd certainly have to dig your way through to the other side.
Oh, so like it's like they're down to the floor, like we gotta like go through them.
So varying heights. Some of them will be like near your shoulder. Yeah, definitely. Some would
But
be.
they're
to
not
the floor.
like I imagine them like far above us. Like
Oh, no.
reach up and grab
Yeah,
them.
say the ceiling
Okay.
of this room is maybe 10 feet. The
Okay.
size of it is not very big. It's maybe about 12 or 15 feet square. And these chains are just, like I said, there's probably about a dozen, and they're varying heights. Sort of just, there doesn't seem to be a pattern. Some of them touch the floor. Some of them would come to your shoulder, to maybe your waist, especially use a dwarf like right in front of your face.
Yeah, Tracy would basically pay no mind to them. He'd walk through them as though he were walking through curtains, or walking through, sort of a meat drying barn where there's a bunch of stuff. Understanding that it's very obscured vision, but just expecting that these are chains, and let's get to see if there's a door on the other side, kind of thing.
Sure. And as you're walking through and you kind of move the chains, as you said, your attention is kind of drawn up here. You fall into the pit.
And passive perception of what is that? 12 isn't going to do anything for that, right? I just like fall
Nah.
face first and do it. That's fair. All right.
Yeah. So the chains sort of meant to catch your attention. The powdery snow meant to cover the pit. And you use the word trudge.
Yeah, like no question. Like Tracy falls in. You know what I mean? Like if there's a pit, he goes face first into it.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here?
Sure. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is it's actually 2d6.
I don't know. So I don't know how much HP everybody else has, but I might have the most. Oh man, I rolled that like stats. 3, baby.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
right. I got lucky on that one.
3 total. All right. So you're made of sterner stuff, you hard-headed dwarf. As you fall into this 10-foot pit, and it's just, to me, it's been a long time since someone fell for this one. So you're kind of like, oh, hey, it's been a while. This thing is like totally underused.
And as you fell, Tracy, or as you walked out there, Severus was kind of looking ahead. And then as soon as I heard like this kind of jangle of these chains, was just like, and then just, because I was trying to be so careful. And then you just walk right out there, and I just, and then see you slide down.
So making the best of a terrible situation. Is there anything else in the pit, or are we talking like just empty stone? Like I'm not even going to find like a copper coin or something to put in my pocket.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I want you to roll a d12.
Oh, shit.
If it's even, you find something cool. If it's odd, you find something that hurts you.
Oh, man, this is the best game ever. All right. 5. It's odd, baby.
Awesome. So you actually do find a small silver mirror, but it's so cold that when you go to touch it, it shatters in your face, doing a d4 piercing damage.
Is that something you made up, or is that something from the adventure kit?
Okay, so I just took a common item and loot, the small silver mirror, and then I decided that you've already been beat up a decent amount, and I don't want you to feel like it's bullcrap that you just had d6 damage falling into a pit, and then the same amount's done by a mirror. So I chose to do a d4.
That's fair. No, yeah, and just for some insight, because I'm like, that's
Sure.
kind of awesome. Yeah, it's great.
And what I have here is I have the toolbox open, and I'm just scrolling through, and every time you guys ask me a question. By the way, that room, totally improvised using the encounters roll tables. Basically, I use the chains, the powdery snow, and then I just sort of improvised the pit because old school. So what do you guys do? Your buddy's in a pit.
And I'm probably 4 feet, even at most, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know how tall dwarves are, but they're not 5 feet. So this is, not only did it hurt, but it's going to be an interesting time getting me out of here, because I'm also not a light guy.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone brought rope. So Mutt is sort of like, he sees Tracy just disappear into the pit. I imagine that it's just sort of this weird thing where Tracy's there and then all of a sudden he isn't. It looks like he glitches through the floor in a video game. And Mutt immediately grabs the nearest chain and just holds on to it, even though he's still on solid ground.
And Severus would walk over to the edge and kind of, he's got this kind of shortish staff, but I would actually go down and kind of crawl over and stick my staff down, and then just realize, no, he would just pull me right down there. So I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine. And he would say so, and you could tell he was a little bit more embarrassed than anything, but fell right in on his face.
Dr. Derry will move away from the party in the opposite direction to look for a chain that seems like it might be long enough to be able to drop down the pit and to see how it's connected to the ceiling. So he's kind of going from chain to chain, getting progressively colder, and he left his torch back with the party, so he's in the dark, sort of.
Sure, and I think that's very smart. So you're able to use the chains if you want to assist him. It'd be fairly easy to get out.
I just wanted to make it clear, a lot of the viewers are asking why we didn't bring rope or other ways to get out of pit traps. And the important thing is we didn't start with anything except for armor and our characters, basically. So I just wanted to bring that up to anybody that's wondering why we didn't have rope or a 10-foot pole or a sword, for instance.
This is
that is the
oath
reason.
of the frozen masochist.
This is exactly. So I'm like, I just want to make it clear that it's not that somebody said, you know what, we're not going to need rope. It was like, sorry guys, you were the bench warmers. The characters, the main characters got all the good loot. You guys got what might have been left. You got what you found on the way.
Yeah, and I assume that they used a lot of their resources to get to the Frozen King and defeat him, which is why they weren't just like, yeah, I've got a full backpack you can pick up.
I found an explorer's pack.
Hey!
Yeah, like they used most or all of that stuff getting to the Frozen King. You know what I mean?
And defeating
there might
him,
be a rope
right.
tied up somewhere and some used torches somewhere and some stuff like that.
Exactly. As Derry, you like I said, you can use these chains, and I think that it would be a little bit of a chore, but between Severus using his stave and you using the chains, I think it would look pretty ridiculous, but you'd probably be able to pull Tracy out of that 10-foot pit.
Awesome. And then that's what we do. And how does Tracy come up out of the pit?
So I feel like Tracy would be a little more spry than he looks, especially having falling in. But he would, as he's coming up, put his feet on the wall and help out. Like he's no he's not necessarily a climber, but he's no a stranger to sort of athletics or acrobatics. He's not necessarily the most spry, maybe in his age, or he's gained some weight, but he knows how to help. He knows how to help someone get him out of a pit.
And Mutt sort of realizes that that hand axe that he found would probably make a fairly decent like ice pick for use with climbing. And he kind of like moves it towards the back of his belt as he's waiting for Severus and Derry to help Tracy out of the hole.
Mutt is the best.
He's the worst!
Like, just take every time where someone's like, you know what, this would be really good. And then, like, at that moment, it goes one of two ways. What we usually do, which is, oh, I'm going to help him, and what Mutt does, which is like, screw this guy. Yeah, I'm not letting him use my axe.
Well, I love it because my personality trait is I would rather make friends than enemies, but my flaw is, but I choose money over my friends every time.
That's the best.
Derry's eyes will be on the ceiling to see if maybe we can swing ourselves across this pit. And he would bring that up to the party.
Oh, so actually, to that point, is the pit like across, or like is there a way around? Like now that we all basically know where it is, especially Tracy, does it span the whole width, and like we do have to swing, or like we could maybe edge around it or something?
So you can't edge around it. This is a slowdown sort of room. Like if you were here, the enemies would try to route you in here so that you would either fall into the pit or be slowed down. So it does run the whole length of the room, but it's only about 5 feet across. So you can jump, you can swing, whatever you want to try to do to get your little butts across there.
You would look over and you would see Severus like taking some of the just straps of like leather and fur and hide that he's got like wrapped, just trying to huddle up. And I'm actually wrapping some around one of the chains. And then I'm kind of getting ready to like, I think I can make it. And I've got this like, wrapped just to protect my hands from the cold.
That's perfect. And if you want to try to swing yourself across, I will allow you to do so, any of you, with an athletics check.
That did not go well. With my -2 modifier, that is a 6.
All right. So just describe to me what it looks like as you don't make it across.
Yeah, so I imagine, I've got the chain like pretty well gripped and, looking like I've got it kind of held at my base here. But then as soon as I start to swing, it's one of those things where you've seen this before. Like it just like, I just don't have the upper body strength for it. It's like a 10-year-old trying to do it, right?
Like any kid that's tried to do that. Like I know exactly what you mean. They're just like, I got this, and the moment all of their weight is on it, it's just like, nope.
Yep. And so it's just like it's this kind of gradual, like immediately, and then immediately just like I can't hold on, and I just go sliding into the wall of the pit, basically.
So definitely give me a D4 of bludgeoning damage as you hit.
All right, that'll be 2 damage. So I hit hard and I say, I'm okay.
And so as he's doing that, as though there were a crowd, Severus is getting ready, and as though there were a crowd, Tracy would be like, all right, back up, and he'd kind of back up, and he wouldn't try to swing, he would run, and he would jump across, like as comically as possible, but I got an 18. So I'm assuming that he just jumps the relatively simple for an adventurer 5 feet over this thing, probably at the same moment that Severus like absolutely eats crap.
Dude, yeah, and if council will allow, as you do it, you do this sort of like redneck high adrenaline tumble. So like as you run, you hit the other side and you kind of woo!
Yeah, exactly. Like he runs, and when he jumps, it's not like he jumps and like his arms and legs like flail as though he went over a cliff just now. And then he lands, like you said, he rolls and turns around and cheers at everyone else as though they don't also have to make it. Like you said, just like, whoa, like same exact thing, like hell yeah. Like, I made it. Screw you guys. Like, just no concern for their well-being whatsoever in that moment of success.
I did it, losers.
Okay.
So now,
we
even
need
though
an
Severus, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, even though Severus like hit, I'll say that you ended up on the other side, and Tracy, you're now on the other side.
So we need an athletics check to get across here, Tim.
Yeah, or if you want to get creative.
I think Mutt is very uncreative.
If I would have thought of it, I would have thrown Mutt like the yard waste bag he was across the pit. Just like toss it, you know.
Like your hands would have been covered in like weird, like what even is this? Like it's like olive oil. You're just like, what the hell?
And he gets at like cuts and like pokes from where the branches are sticking out of the bag. It was like a work tough bag or whatever, but it doesn't matter.
Still,
the
it's
horns
still
are poking right through. Yeah.
It's not even like a good like name brand garbage bag. Like it's like you opted for the cheapo brand. You tried to save a couple bucks. Yeah, you went for the Kroger bag.
The Kroger Work Tough TUFF.
Yeah, dude, it's the Built Strong. You're like, what is this? It's called a Hafty bag.
Happy bag. So I got a 14 on my athletics check.
Okay, a 12 does it. So what does that
awesome.
look like? How are you using the chains, or are you doing a straight jump?
Yeah, so he sort of just like waits for a couple other people to get across, and then again does the spits in his hand. It's just this. It's like mostly snot somehow. There's like no saliva. It's all snot, and he grabs onto a chain and kind of does the wheel back and goes across with his legs just straight up in the air, and he comes across and slides on his butt on the other side and then lets the chain go. That wasn't so bad.
Derry's feeling maybe a little more promising about seeing Mutt do it. He will close his book and he'll kind of toss it across if he can to his companions to catch. And then he's going to look up at the chains and he's going to grab one, and it wasn't used yet, and he's going to pull on it a couple of times and some frost will shake off of it. Not sure how much liberty you want me to give me here, Tim, but he says, okay, here we go. Can't be too tough. And as soon as he swings at the very top, the frost snaps it. And I rolled a natural 1. I don't know how you want to do the crit miss there. I don't know. I had an idea or two, but you are the dungeon master as I fall into the pit, holding this chain.
Oh, you definitely fall into the pit. So step 1. How about I do step 1 and then you do step 2? So
awesome.
Step 1 is you definitely take 2d6, like legit, just for falling in that thing.
I took 5. So go ahead if you have anything else after that.
Well, yeah. So we'll know that. Now you do step 2. That's just what happens when people fall into the pit. What does the chain do to you?
I would imagine it does probably the same thing. I don't know how much damage, but it would collapse on top of him. This heavy frostbitten chain would I don't know how much damage you suggest, but it would absolutely hit me and wreck me.
Sure. So what we'll do is we'll actually do another d6, and you are actually restrained in the pit.
All right, only 2. I'm doing all right there, but
you're tangled up. You're restrained in the pit, wrapped up in the chain.
So crunched by this chain, I can feel my bruised ribs. My ribs bruise. I can feel maybe a couple crunches where they shouldn't happen. But the most terrifying thing is that I can slowly, with the sound I made and with the impact on the floor, I slowly feel the ground shake. The ground begins to kind of adjust a little bit.
He just keeps falling through floors until he's at the bottom of the tomb again. Just like,
hey, no, dude, no. I wanted to. If I'm rolling a critical 1, if I'm rolling a critical miss, I'm gonna make it affect my friends too.
He lands in the Frozen King's lap, like with an ice binky.
So to be clear, I imagine everything's shaking slowly.
Yeah. So like essentially, you hit the spot, and so yeah. In fact, That is actually a great idea. So, yeah. So, basically, in 2 rounds, the room's going to collapse with snow. Yeah.
So I imagine that the
Awesome.
Terry, when you throw your book across, when you throw your spell book, expecting one of us to catch it, it hits Mutt in the chest. It just kind of falls on the ground, and he's just like, "Ow! How did he do that for?" He kind of looks at Tracy, and then the ground starts to shake, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he immediately grabs the nearest chain, and he's like looking down into the pit where his 2 companions are waiting.
And Severus says, "You were supposed to learn from my mistake. Ugh, that was worse."
For a moment, Derry attempts to scream help as he understands what might be happening, but he can't get it out because of the weight of the chain. A few fingers, pinky busted at an angle, reach up towards his friends.
So we'll call that the first round. So in another round, the room's going to collapse.
Tim,
Save yourselves.
Tim, how much space do we have in here? So it's 5 feet across a gap. How wide is that gap?
So it's the length of the room. So you could go back and forth. It's about 12 or 15 feet.
Okay.
So you could go over, and you're both in like different sections of it.
Yeah. I'd like to try to cast, if you think this would work without, I guess I wouldn't do it if I thought it would collapse on us, but I'd like to basically try to cast magic missile on the far end of it to just get enough ice or whatever it is, stone or whatever, to break down so we could maybe climb out.
Sure. And I think it's going to be a matter of racing it. So yeah, you can do it. And it seems to hold like sound logic. It's a matter of, can you get your chain wrapped friend up the pit? So I say do it, because that's what you wanted to do. And then we'll figure out how the rest happens.
Yeah.
So what does it look like as you cast magic missile on this sort of, we'll call it just an area that looks a little more rickety and cracked than the others at the far end, closest to you?
Sure. So I, just feel the ground shaking and immediately I'm just thinking, we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. And I just kind of, I'm leaning over the body of Doc here, and I'm going to just aim my staff and concentrate. And I'm actually going to roll with advantage using, I can't even remember what ability Sorcerer has, but
Meta magic feat, maybe?
Whatever that ability is that makes you roll better.
Tides of Chaos.
Yeah.
There we go. Tides of Chaos.
Cool.
I can roll with advantage on one attack. All right. That is going to be a 24. And, oh boy, how does this even work? So a dart deals 1d4 plus 1/4. Sorry, I thought I knew how this worked, but it's not the same spell I thought it was.
Oh, that's okay. No, you're good.
Okay, so each I've got basically 3 darts that I think I was thinking of. Well, anyway. All right, so 3 darts. That's going to be a total of 10 damage to this kind of, to this area that you described.
Sure. And so it's 3 separate, like,
yeah, basically these 3 darts, they're just bluish, and they into this area one after another, almost like, like missiles, right?
yeah, right. Seriously. So I imagine them almost like bullets, like
Mm-hmm.
and just this rock and what appears to be whatever was in the other room, which is mostly snow and ice, just starts sort of filling this tunnel, but at a reasonable rate. Like, now it is going toward your friend, and you can climb up it, but it will most certainly engulf him in stone and ice.
Okay, and I also wonder if I should be rolling on the wild magic chart for that. I think I've never played a sorcerer before, and I just read this 40 minutes before we started playing here. But it says at the DM's discretion. I don't know if you guys know how that works. After casting a spell, you roll on the wild magic chart.
I would say, heck yeah.
Okay. So this is a D100. And that is a 6, which I don't know what this word is, guys. A Modron chosen and controlled by the DM appears in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you, then disappears 1 minute later.
So it's like this.
We have a robot!
It's like this dude from the plane. Yeah, it's from the plane of Mechanus, and he's like this little one-eyed guy. You know who he is? You know the DM's guide where the characters are hiding underneath this like bridge, and there's this army of one-eyed robots marching above them?
Yes.
It's those.
Okay.
And like the old ones, you could tell was like Dave Arneson or Gary Gygax just drew legs on a D4. Like if you look at the old drawings.
Yes.
So you basically have this robot to
Okay.
control for a minute is what it looks like.
Okay. Well, it says chosen and controlled by the DM.
Oh, sorry. That's even better.
But if you want me to re-roll, I would gladly take
No!
you cast fly on a random creature and just send Barker over the That's
That
what I was really hoping
wild.
for. I was telling the guys in the chat, there's a 1 in 50 chance, guys.
No, dude.
No,
so
this is awesome. This is awesome.
yeah, dude. So this Modron, essentially, because they're from the plane of Mechanus, and they're these like clockwork creatures, and they have to do with just time and etc. So to me, what happens is this dude kind of appears. He sort of like looks around, and he immediately marches over to the doctor, and he starts poking and taking the chains, just like poking and taking the chains. But it looks like he's taking the chains off. No, he's actually tightening them. And then he grabs the chain and starts walking towards the other direction. He's dragging Barker to the opposite end of the pit.
You just hear a
That's
mumbling and a groaning of pain as he's doing this, emanating from this metal sack of Dr. Derry.
And I'm just like, oh no, help! And I yell up to our companions.
What? Fine. And Mutt was like kind of preparing to turn around and leave because Derry was like, go. And he was like, all right, like waving and was about to go. He'll take out an arrow and draw back, and he's going to fire at the Modron.
All right. So go ahead and roll for me.
The one trying to save me?
Oh, is he trying to save you? I thought he was pulling you away from us.
You already said you're doing it.
I thought Tim said he was pulling you away from us, so I was going to try and stop him.
Oh, wait. Maybe I misheard.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's pulling him away from the rubble that's starting to fill, right?
Okay.
But maybe not going the way
So
we
it is,
need
yeah,
to
it is
get out of
away
the pit.
from us, but it's also away from, like, because we're up on top, it's just a short walk over to the other side, like the other part of the pit on our side.
Gotcha.
So I see what you're saying. No, but I thought the same thing as you, Matt. I thought when the way Tim said it was like, he's taking him home. Like, dude is just like, bye.
He's like,
But I see what you're saying.
Better than the bottom of the pit, dude. Take me home. I don't care.
Take me home.
So I would definitely not shoot him then because Mutt would not create more work for himself. So he's just like, oh, okay, the Modron's got it handled and would not shoot at him.
And so you sort of notch your arrow, and like you said, you laser, you're like, oh, good thing. And so the Modron sort of gets to the wall and then starts like looking around. And then he turns and he starts walking towards the rubble and the ice, just dragging.
Okay,
And,
now I'm going to shoot him. Ugh. 9.
All right, so here's
How much
the
damage do I take, Tim?
So here's the thing. This is another really good example of why the toolbox in the kit is so good, because that is totally random. I don't have the stats for a Modron rolled. I don't have that ready. So I can do a couple of things. I can go to the monster manual, flip through it, and that's fine. But for the pace of the game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the monster generator. I'm going to go to the quick monster stats, and I'm going to say this is definitely a minion. 1 to 5 hit points with an armor class of 10. So I think you just miss, and I'd probably give this dude like 2 hit points. So Matt, you said you rolled a 9?
Yeah.
You missed. You missed him by 1.
I wasted an arrow too.
You did waste an arrow, and so I will actually.
Can you grab the arrow when you're on your way back up?
Barker, I'll give you a dex save to sort of like just barely get out of the way of that arrow.
Pull myself. Okay, we'll do. A dex. Is this a saving throw or is this a dex check?
No, that is a saving throw, my friend. An arrow is almost going to hit you.
Okay, so here we go. A total of 15.
Okay. So you're able to sort of just huddle and accidentally make it so that the arrow hits one of the thick links of the chain.
Awesome. Derry is surprised, and he'll wait for his turn.
We're kind of like not an initiative, so you can go ahead.
Okay, cool. He'll kind of expand outward, and the chains seem to come off fairly easily. Like that was kind of a choke point of him. And he'll crawl and to his feet. Am I on the other side of the pit from my companions?
Yes. Well, let me say this.
Yep.
I thought you were in the pit and with Severus, and the other two were on the other side of the pit near the exit door. And so this whole time, to me, the Modron was trying to just do the simple command of like pull. And he just tried to pull you, and then he got to the wall and was like, I'm not programmed to climb. So he turned and started walking towards the other direction.
Okay, cool. So we're still in the pit, Severus and myself. But Severus has collapsed some of the wall down.
Yeah.
So Dr. Derry will run up the pathway that Severus created.
That's perfect. Now, the only thing is that you're restrained by the chain. So
still okay. I thought it was. I thought that shot off. Okay, cool.
No. So the Modron, if nothing, made it tighter. So the thing is that what you can do is, I'm just looking up the restrained condition to make sure I have it right. Because I didn't want you grappled, but I wanted you. Yeah. Okay. So
for sure.
Your speed becomes 0, and you can't benefit from any bonus to speed. Attack rolls have advantage. So basically, you can I will let you try to do some sort of strength check, or you can give me any kind of creative check to escape these chains, whether that's acrobatics, if you want to do sleight of hand, whatever you think can get you unrestrained. Because right now you're kind of...
I think this is something that Derry is not very skilled in at all and has never had experience in this. And so he's just going to try through brute strength to get out of this thing, which I imagine has tangled his legs. Like maybe his upper body's a little bit free or more free because of the arrow, but he's going to try to just make a brute strength check. He got a 3 total. And he can't get these chains off of him. They're wrapped so tightly. He can't even feel his feet at this point with a mixture of the cold, or if there's a cold and the tension from this tourniquet chain that is cutting his blood away from his legs.
Totally. And I think at that exact moment is when the room starts to collapse and the avalanche of snow from everywhere begins to just rush in on everyone. So the room begins to immediately
So not just the pit, but the whole room.
The whole room begins to fill with snow because it's just cracking, and one of you shot a hole in the wall, and so it starts to sort of do that. So in order to survive, you all need to make I would say that you can choose whether you want to be like Constitution, like you kind of hunker down and see if you can brave the snow, or if you want to do Dex. Any save that you can convince me would work and narrate, I'll allow.
I got 15 on a Dex save. What's the DC?
The DC is a 12.
Okay, cool.
So he's not known for this usually, but in this instance, Tracy thinks quickly, and he looks around for some of these chains, and he jumps and he grabs onto one and holds it as tight as he can, hoping that basically he can't, in no way could he be pulled under the snow. And that is a 16 strength.
And I rolled a 5 dex save as I'm trying to scramble up the rubble, basically.
Dr. Derry, pinned by the chains, can do nothing but do his best to cover his head in a way that all of the books have taught him. In the case of an avalanche, you just try to maintain as much air around you as possible. And so he's going to pull in those skills. He's rolled a natural 20, and he will do so. I imagine he creates a nice little air bubble to breathe through all of it and then suffocate.
Perfect. So Tracy and Mutt, you are safe. Everyone else, so Severus and Dr. Derry, you will begin suffocating shortly. We're essentially going to use the snow as drowning rules. So you are able to survive a number of rounds equal to your Constitution modifier. And I'll look that up. In fact, let me plug something else. I'm going to use the something that is included in the Harbinger version 2 playtest. There are actually some survival guidelines in there, and one of them is for low oxygen. So I'm going to actually use those rules.
Harbinger 0.2, by the way.
Oh, what did I say?
Which is version 2. I'm like,
oh,
whoa!
Sorry, version 0.2.
The Harbinger expansion pack.
All right, so what that means is that the snow rushes in and engulfs the 2 mages inside of the pit.
Mutt sort of looks at Tracy, shrugs, and kind of starts walking out. And then he sort of realizes that he doesn't know where he's going, but Derry seems to. And he has a very brief internal struggle, which does not happen very often. And he sort of is sitting there like, well, but then, damn. And he turns around and goes, let's try and unbury him, I guess. We're not going to be able to get out of here without him.
And to be clear, so I'm not an expert. It sounds like the room is filling up, but usually the way snow works is it simply settles. But because it's not quite like water, it doesn't necessarily fill. So I'm not trying to DM here, but are we like waiting for it to settle, or is it like not stopping, like this is a trap?
I think that it's kind of in between both of those things, meaning there was a big influx, but it's not an unlimited amount. So there's still sort of a slow shifting, gradual, like very slight fill, but it has settled enough that you can start digging. The challenge here is that the 2 can basically survive a number of minutes, 3 plus their Constitution modifier. And knowing this group, that's probably like a -4. So what is your Constitution modifier, Dr. Derry?
0.
Okay, so you can survive 3 minutes. And what about you?
Mine is +1.
Okay, so 4 minutes. Okay. And so what I'll do, actually, just for fun, I'm going to put a real timer on my phone. And if we can't solve it in a real 4 minutes, then you die.
Awesome.
I love it.
So it's like a splat book roulette, but with lives.
It is.
Oh my god.
So I'm going to try and go to where at least I can tell where I last saw Derry. I'm going to move to that where I think I saw him. And I'm going to get out my hand axe, and I'm not going to chop with it, but I'm going to use it like a shovel, and I'm going to start digging into the snow with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect.
Seeing that, Tracy would try and do the same thing, basically noticing that, kind of seeing Mutt's internal struggle and going to help him as well, to dig, trying not to stand on the spot where he was pretty sure these people were.
And I'm actually going to try to like shove my staff up as high as I can, trying to poke it through, or at least trying to maybe create some air so I can breathe.
Yeah, and I think so. For the poking through in the staff, I would need a strength check. You have 3 minutes left.
And Derry's just kind of sitting
That
there.
is a 5.
5, you're unable to poke. The snow is too heavy. Your hands are covered. You're not able to do much. Mutt, what sort of skills would you have that would help you in this? What are you going to use? Some sort of like survival skill?
I imagine this is straight athletics. I'm just trying to shovel as much of the snow as I can. Oh, damn. That's an 18 athletics.
All right. So you're able to, I think, dig deep, and I'll keep the narration short because I'm on your clock here. But
yeah, I'm like,
you're like, okay, Tim, stop being Tim. So,
so real quick, can I say what I'm doing so that then you can narrate both?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
okay.
That's actually really smart.
Trying to, I was wrong about my survival because I had proficiency in it, and I wasn't negative once +2. So I rolled a 14 +2, so 16 survival. And I don't know that I've spent that much time in snow, but I might have some knowledge about not suffocating people in snow while trying to dig them out.
You have 2 minutes left.
That's
okay. So what? I stopped kind of listening to you because I wanted to tell you had 2 minutes left dramatically. What'd you say at the end there?
Said you got to give us an extra 30 seconds, you poop. I said I got a 16 survival.
And you know about, I heard the part where you say we're being Carney Brothers.
Make it up. Yeah,
Brothers are going to die.
All
right. Guys! So, all right. So, I think that in a furious rage, as you're both digging, Mutt is digging because he knows that if he doesn't dig, he'll die. So it's pure selfishness is fueling this. There's no adrenaline in this, man. It's just this thick black ichor. And you start digging and digging and digging and clink, and you hit a chain. You hit Dr. Derry's chain, okay? And so you see it, and you start clink, clink, start sort of scraping, but you have to slow down because Dr. Derry is in there, so you can't dig as hard anymore. So, Matt, you need to figure out how you're going to get him out. James, you just reached Severus. You have 1 minute left.
I'm going to grab the chains that Dr. Derry has around him and use those as leverage to just haul him up out of the snow. I just want to get his head up out of the snow so he can breathe.
Okay. So you're looking to do that. I'm going to need a strength check. Tracy, how do you...
20!
20?
Yes.
Right. 30 seconds left. James, how do you free Severus?
So, like you said, I found him, I imagine. I'm somewhere near him, so I would continue furiously digging, and this is a little bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to use Action Surge to, I don't know, do something that makes it quicker and faster, and so digging, and again, just trying to find his face so that I can clear it so that he can begin breathing, but I don't necessarily have anything special that I can do.
And you pull both of their faces out of the snow just in time.
Jeez.
I'm IRL sweating over here.
I need a nap.
So ends the first night. Woo! You guys want to take a quick break? Maybe get some water?
I'd
love
love a
to.
quick
Yeah.
break. Yes.
I want to
Let's
get a
take a
breath
quick
of
break.
fresh air.
Take a bathroom break. Everybody, thanks for watching. Don't go away. Don't go away. We're going to be back. We're going to play probably, just another hour, having fun, improving this using the adventure kit. Thanks to all the players. Thanks to all the viewers. This is the perfect time to click the link down in the dungeon. If this seems interesting to you, even at all, go check out the Kickstarter and decide if you want to back it. But we'll be back in 5, guys.
Hey, he's smart. None of these other guys know what's up. But I'm the only one making it out of here alive, guaranteed.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for jumping in here and watching. That last encounter to me was like that scene in a movie when like there's someone underwater that can't breathe and you as the viewer hold your breath. Just a combination of the anxiety and intensity of the scene and also just maybe seeing if you can do it. Now, obviously, I don't think I can hold my breath for 4 minutes. Maybe if I were like forced to, but I felt out of breath at the end of that. And rarely, like I rarely put an actual timer in the game because for me, it's only gone right this time. Actually, it rarely goes well. I've never seen it done in an online game. And when Tim first said it, I was like, one of us is going to die. Either Derry's going to die or Nate's character is going to die. And we seriously made it by the skin of our teeth, by 9 seconds, I think we had left, maybe 3. That was absolutely awesome. So I'm heading over to the chat, still feeling a little out of breath, eating a string cheese. Let's see what people are up to. Hey, DMJ's here. Dungeon Master Johnny. How's it going, man? Wow, timer. Yes. Bung wires. Yes. Timer indeed. Mutt's the guy. I love all of the Mutt quotes happening, all the Mutt memes going on in the chat. What's my favorite? Mutt. Oh, I gotta see this. I gotta see it. Oh, Josh, what you looking at says Mutt thinks metalcore is a metal genre. Oh man. Mutt always takes a bite out of the last slice of hot and ready, even though he's full. And only a single bite. Not more than one. Oh, Tim and Nate are back, so I can stop talking.
Don't stop talking. You're doing great.
Nope, I got to eat this cheese.
All right, you eat that cheese. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm also going to jump over to the chat. Let's see here. So, one of the things that the adventure kit is allowing me to do is improv the parts that I want to improv, not have to make up the whole thing. So one of my favorite parts about this kit is that the framework is there for me to jump around.
Hey,
so the core elements are there, and then I can improv the details. And to me, that's where I live. I love that. Give me the main kind of concept and then let me tweak it. That's way easier than me having to come up with the main concept. Case in point, this sort of avalanche. Barker had this idea like, oh, what if the room starts shaking? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of perfect. All this stuff's improv, but it was around a room that we generated with a pit and other things in there. So to me, it's that perfect balance, man.
Dude, I agree. This has been really awesome.
I'm having a blast. It's just light. It's fun. It's deadly. I've never played in a game or run a game where a pit was that dangerous, and I liked that.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was
I've never played in a game with a pit. You know what I mean? And even if I hadn't fallen in it, it obviously still would have been formidable. You know what I mean? Like me falling in it was just like how it started, but obviously the rest would potentially still have happened. So that was really cool.
And one of the things I tried to do too is I thought it would be cool to set this decades before current Dragongrin, and just make it so. In my mind, when one day when we have the time, a product that I would like to put out as Absolute Tabletop is a single sort of OSR book, an old school Renaissance book called The Frontiers of Old Dragongrin, and it's all just OSR style before the Dismembered Lord and before all that stuff. So it's like second edition-ish Black Hack style Dragongrin stuff. And this was kind of my way to jump into that and have fun with it.
I also love the nights. I didn't say this earlier when you first mentioned it, but the end of the first night, and you were talking about maybe like, I don't know, the next one might be the 13th night or something, but I love that because in my mind, I can see it on the screen. Like everything goes black and then the first night. Like, and I love that part about games. I'm a cinematic gamer and GM, like that's what I want. I want to feel like this is kind of like a movie where you can do things that you usually might not be able to do in real life. And that sort of, some people might think that's immersion breaking. That immerses me more. That sort of, all right, we made it through that night. Let's see if we can do it again and again and again.
Yeah, because to me, it is a way to, in a one-shot, make a really long time happen without like, oh, well, we're in a campaign, so we were there for 2 weeks. It's like, no, ran a one-shot, and we were there for 2 weeks, and I love that idea.
Yeah, it creates a sense of kind of desperation, almost like we're still here. And that's normally not something you get in a one-shot.
And what's going to be cool, and Nate, you've already been doing really well at this, and I've not, but you've been role-playing the cold really well. And so now that if, let's just assume, okay, night 2, night 3, night 7, night 8, as the nights progress, that'll allow us to role-play being colder and colder and more stranded and having less supplies and relying more on our surroundings. Like, that's exciting stuff.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I was trying to do. Is I thought I want it to feel bigger, but we don't have the time. So I thought that's the best way to do it. It's also, to me, the cleanest framing device that I could come up with to do all kinds of random encounters. That would make sense. Like, okay, and then you trudged on for 5 days and you were cold and you found just enough food to survive, barely made it through. And then you came upon this next room. So it's like you're way, further ascended up. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try it. And I'm glad you guys are getting it.
One thing I'm really excited to do is try my own hand at the adventure kit and the generators and stuff, because I'm just getting more and more excited as you do it. And someday, Mouse Guard, the wish of the Winter Weasel, someday that game will happen, and it's going to be the most adorable Frozen King you've ever seen in your life.
And that actually, last thing, brings up a really good point. I love the idea of playing through the Stone Rift Adventure or the Sandwall or even Riptide Raid, but having helped write and edit those, it would be not worthless, but it just wouldn't be the same. You couldn't not know what was going to happen unless they changed it drastically. And in this case, I've read this thing 2 times, and this was still all a surprise to me, because you let it evolve naturally based on some of the details rather than this is a room where it fills up with snow, and that's what it is every time.
Yep. All right.
All right. The 6th cold night. So I'm a dungeon master. I'm sitting at the table. The players are kind of taking it in a direction that I didn't necessarily plan for. The adventure kit has really a surplus of places for me to go. So my toughest choice at this point isn't, what am I going to do with the players? It's, what easy tool do I want to use to draw inspiration from? And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to throw it to you guys as the players. I'm going to come up with what the 6th night is and kind of improv it. But knowing the adventure kit a little bit, what section do you want me to draw from? What do you want me to base this encounter on?
I'm going to go ahead and say the troll encounter.
Perfect.
I was thinking that exact same thing, Matt.
I was not, but thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I'm the worst.
So here's another interesting thing. Let's see if we can still make this fun, even though they know where I'm drawing my inspiration. And I think this is going to be a good stress test of the kit. So this is the 6th cold night. Doctor, you're unraveling. You're making progress. You're getting them further, but maybe not closer to the exit. Perhaps you're moving laterally. So while you are pushing forward, it's not necessarily upward. and a spark of inspiration catches you in this cold. And you realize you've come upon something that you, until this moment, thought was a legend. And you can see it as you enter this room. There's a corridor, and you can see this gorgeous frozen shrine. It's glowing a pale white. And an archaic broadsword with runic curses etched upon it lays upon a stone altar. And you recognize these to match the scrawlings from the door.
Anyone near Dr. Derry would be able to hear his teeth clattering, but at this point down here in the dungeon, he's skittish, and any sounds might frighten him. And so he turns around with a jolt, realizing that he's just hearing the steps of his companions behind him. He turns to his book and flips a page, but the page snaps off because it's so cold. He tucks it in the book and closes it. There's nothing in here written about this item. So I'm going to see from where I am as I move forward, I'm going to try to examine it and see what I know about this sword.
Sure. So this is the blade that is said to keep the frozen king in the tomb. Some legends say that this was the sword that was used to slay him. Others say that it was his sword used against him. Some persist that it's both. But you know that this is a legendary item, something historic. But you also know that taking it might not get you coin, because who would believe that the Frozen King is dead? Who would believe that this item wouldn't bring curses and ruin to their house? But it's beautiful.
Circle, line, pentagram. He's drawing slowly a circle around the sword using his staff in the snow or in the ice or frost and dust. The staff, which is now probably a couple inches shorter than it was before because of use. And he will cast Detect Magic on this to see not only if it is magical, a faint aura around any visible object in the area that bears magic, but I would be able to learn its school of magic, if any, specifically not only of the sword, but of any awards surrounding it. He finishes the circle, casts the ritual as best he can in the midst of shaking and clattering teeth.
Sure. And Severus is not surprised when you're thrown back 10 feet and take a d6 of psychic damage. But you know clearly that this sword was forged in the profane fires of necromancy.
Now that's a shiny sword.
Don't touch it, he says obviously.
Wasn't going to after what happened. You all right, Doc?
So far, it's necrotic. I've not seen magic like that in my entire life. Just read about it.
Necrotic, what's that? What's that mean?
It's the powers of undeath. We're surrounded by it in here.
Like skeletons and stuff.
Yes, I've never seen it infused inside of an object. He stands back up, brushes himself off, notices that his left pinky is gone after maybe perhaps an amputation from one of his friends, lets out a sigh before walking close to it, but not too close.
Mutt reaches up and peels off a flake of dry skin and kind of flicks it away.
Well, is there any way that we could take it safely? Because something like that would fetch a fair pile of coin.
Would I maybe, in my knowledge of it, if I could Do I know enough about it to know how it might be removed?
Sure. Yeah. You, as far as you know, the only thing that tethers that sword to the altar is the fact that no one is foolish enough to remove it.
So that's the extent of the knowledge. Sorry.
Yeah. Basically, no one's dumb enough to take this cursed sword that's keeping the Frozen King at bay. But they don't know that he's dead.
And there's also, it's weird, it's one of my character's kind of attributes, which is that I believe that discovery of an ancient item or an ancient thing is worth the price of an entire civilization. And so I don't think that would stop Dr. Derry from saying, Severus, do you have any ideas of how we might dislodge this item?
To me, it looks perfectly safe for us, for him to grab it once we are gone.
Well, I'm just saying, there's got to be some sort of magic-y, sort of wizardy way in order to take items like this, right? I mean, it's not just out in the open because they don't want someone to take it.
And as you speak, you hear the incessant dripping as though this room is slowly melting. And maybe it was happening the whole time, but now you notice it, and the floor seems to become a little more slick and slippery with this melting ice.
Maybe it's one of them pure art things, like in them old fairy tales, you know. And if that's the case here, you don't mind me saying, we ought to leave it where it is.
What? You don't think I'm pure of art?
Pure of art? Hot? Hey, your art's colder than that Frozen King in there.
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but you're probably right. If it's a worthiness thing, then, well, I probably shouldn't attempt it.
There are those who could dispel the magic perhaps around it, but I'm afraid they are above my knowledge.
What about
never
you,
learned to
Severus?
spell
Could you do
anyway.
it? Could you dispel it? Or could you disbobulate it?
This is foolishness. Look, he just from trying to reach out and sense what it was, you saw what it did to him. We need to get out of here. This is a distraction.
It belongs in a museum, Severus.
I've been in this goddamn tomb, and all I've gotten is a handful of copper pieces and a half-decent axe. We got to have something to show for it now we've been down here so long.
If you're lucky, you'll have your life. Just, you fool.
No, my life ain't worth that much.
I'll give you something worth keeping.
What was
Who
that?
said that?
Go ahead. Take the sword.
Is everyone else hearing that?
I am. In my experience, mysterious voices, untethered to a body, are rarely a good thing. Maybe perhaps we should not take the sword.
Well, he probably knows what he's talking about, right? If he's like just a voice.
He's got a good point, though. That's sort of his thing, you know, voicing and all that.
Severus actually does laugh and just, you're an idiot. Come on.
But these idiots saved our lives not a week ago. Mutt, I would entrust my life with you. Your choice. And yours, Tracy.
Wouldn't advise against that.
Severus is just, I mean, wide-eyed, like looking at Dr. Derry, like, what?
And you see a shadow move across the wall as though it belongs to a gaunt, bent back creature, maybe 7 feet tall, though there is no creature. And you hear the voice again. Take the sword. Maybe you can pay the tax. And then from behind the shrine, which was darkness, you see steps. What, being locals, you would know as a troll. This ugly creature with an elongated nose. Its powerful, muscled body is missing a hand. And you could see now, as the shadows are sort of hitting the altar just right, this frozen hand of the troll laying next to this blade that just looked like it was part of the altar, one of the rocks and ice, but it's actually his severed hand.
Mutt takes a step back, draws out an arrow. No one's ever accused me of paying taxes. And he aims the arrow at the troll very cautiously.
And you could see that the the troll's shadow waves its finger as to say, no, no. But the troll himself doesn't move. And he says, all of you know how to read, yes?
Dr. Derry stands up particularly straight. I wouldn't say all of us, but of course I am well read in multiple languages. The common tongue, the tongue of the gnomes, infernal, draconic, elvish, and dwarvish, and multiple languages. And I imagine he interrupts me or something.
Do you speak troll, bastard?
I have not yet been blessed with the language of trolls. Or their company.
You're standing on the wharf for death.
He would look down at his feet.
And you notice that the floor is covered in these glyphs. And you can see that there's specifically a pattern. And so these wards, these carvings, and Darius, you are standing directly on top of one. And all of you have a foot or two sort of near or around one, because these glyphs sort of span the whole floor. And you could tell that this troll has been working to try to dispel the magic of the sword somehow using these, but he has some sort of power over them.
Upon realizing he's standing on the word for death, he'll look back up at the troll, and maybe nothing happens at that moment, but he will just nonchalantly take a step to the side or something.
And seeing that and hearing what he said, Tracy would do something similar, as though he were just told to, get off the expensive rug. Not necessarily because he thought it was dangerous, but like, oh, sorry, am I standing on something?
So which one of you is going to get me the sword?
I want the sword. I don't want to get it for you. If I'm going to take it, I want it.
I will let you have it.
Mutt seems to seriously be considering it, and then he kind of like looks at his friends, and I imagine they're just like, no, like shaking their heads. He's like, oh, right. No, I'm not going to do anything a troll tells me to do. That seems like a bad idea.
Immediately, Dr. Derry would say, I think our friend would be quite happy to retrieve the sword for you. And he's kind of looking at everyone like, maybe we can get him to get it out for us. Maybe this is our way out, our way to get this item to the museum. We can take this troll. He doesn't say all of those things. Sorry. But what do you suggest? How do you think we would dislodge this such a mighty weapon from such an even mightier arcane fixture.
And with that, the the troll jumps on top of the altar with his arched back. His claws look longer and more dangerous now that there's the full blue light of the sword lighting his body. His entire form is etched with the same glyphs and wards that are on the floor. And as he takes his long fingernail and starts running them through the curves of these spiraling glyphs on his body, and slight trickles of blood start to fill them, these frozen wards start to glow. And he says, "If one of you doesn't grab the sword, then you all die." And roll for initiative. All right. Who's going to be my best buddy with the initiative in the chat? All right. So this mad troll has lost a hand trying to get this sword. We're not sure exactly what the situation is, but these wards that are all over the floor are now glowing blue, and you seem to be sort of standing in the midst of them as the troll scratches himself and sort of fills his own wards that are scarred in his body with his own blood slightly. It seems like the glyphs in the ward seem to have power. So the troll, after he jumps up and threatens your life, just rakes his hand across. And you see one of the frost wards just, and it explodes with a violent burst of frost damage. And so I need, and I'm going to just do it straight on the die. So Barker, you're 1, James, you're 2, Matt, you're 3, Nate, you're 4. So Mutt, I'm going to need a Constitution saving throw, DC 15, or you're going to take just this blast of cold damage.
Sorry, that's a 19.
Sweet. So you take half. So give me 2d6 and then half it.
So that'll be 4 damage for me.
Perfect. And as you take 4 damage, this glyph explodes in freezing cold damage. And as Mutt moves out of the way, just barely, the troll lunges at Dr. Darris. And he just, both claws, and you can see it in his eyes. He wants you to get him the sword.
So I'm not trying to break the immersion, but his name is Dr. Derry.
You did. You broke the immersion.
I did. I keep calling him
I know.
Derry.
I didn't mean to, but I did. I knew that I was.
You know why? Because the microphone icon on his, it looks like a little U.
Oh.
And so I keep seeing Dr. Darris. But that is a 15 on the die.
And that's an armor class thing?
Yep. So
Yeah,
do you have armor, fella?
I have, my armor is a Gen Con t-shirt and some basketball shorts. So I have an armor class of 9.
Okay.
And yeah.
This troll's claws shred and rend your flesh.
So for some reason, everything cut out there. I heard that the claws shred and rend my flesh. How much? That's lovely. How much damage do I take?
I was just going to say, describe what it looks like, and then I was going to roll the damage while you're describing it.
No, absolutely. What's going to happen is it's not difficult for Derry to fall off of his feet right now. He's already on this slick surface. So he's going to fall backwards. He drops his staff. His book comes, goes sliding to the left, and he's going to fall, right onto one of the runes and just start backing away. And that's when he feels the shredded flesh along his chest. However many claws that this thing has struck him with, that's what he has all along his chest and abdomen. Fortunately, it is so cold. Maybe perhaps that'll help to keep the bleeding low. Is the first thing or the second thing that Dr. Derry thinks?
That's perfect. That's excellent. And it's actually your turn to act. So what do you do?
Back away immediately while looking around for some sort of pattern in the runes or something that would help them disengage this creature's control over these contraptions.
Absolutely. So what I will have you do is roll me some sort of a check. I'm thinking intelligence based. You can do Arcana.
That's what I think it would be. I'd look around for some sort of Arcana. It's Arcana thing. Oh God, of 10.
A 10. So you think maybe if you could break either the shape of the ward on the ground or the shape of the ward on the creature, it might deactivate it. It seems like there's something in the pairing of the shapes, and the different shapes match. And so as he's sort of cutting himself to let blood, it's for different regions and areas. And you notice that when he had mutton chops in ice.
Great. So I would look. I would probably, no. And with this thing in my face, I would have to attempt to strike at it. That's what he would do. He would self-defense, pure self-defense. So he's going to, he'd lost his staff. He's going to attempt to maybe kick at the leg of this thing, maybe knock it over using the slippery floor. And he's not going to be successful at that. He's going to kick and continue to lose his footing, and that's when he's fully on his back on the floor.
Yeah, and the blue light from the sword shrine behind you lights this magnificent troll silhouette as you see his claws dangling like a Nosferatu. All right, Mutt.
So this frost ward has gone off, and I imagine that it's not just cold damage. Like, I imagine like icicles like shooting out of the ground and sort of impaling themselves, and Mutt just barely sort of dodges backwards out of the way, and these icicles still cut a few lines across him as he sort of dodges backwards. And what I'm going to do is I would like to just move. Take a move action and get sort of as far away from the troll as I can. Maybe even trying to find some cover if I can. If there's any pillars or rocks or anything like that, I would sort of try and get behind cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ready an action, and that action is going to be... so first of all, I look at Tracy, I point at Tracy, and I point at the troll, and I do the smash. And let me smash. That's what Tracy says. And my action readied is going to be... As soon as Tracy gets within 5 feet of the troll, I'm going to shoot it with an arrow because I want to get that sweet, sweet sneak attack damage, baby.
That is brilliant. And so your action is readied. And now it is actually Tracy's turn.
And so Tracy does in fact say, "Let me smash." And he basically absolutely lunges right at the troll with his what is left of his short sword. Is he still on the pillar? He was that, or not the pillar, sorry, the altar?
He jumped off, and he's now standing. He's standing over Dr. Derry, just sort of slashing him.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, all right, so yeah, he rushes right after him and just goes in for an attack, which is going to be interesting. I actually have a bonus on this one.
All right.
This is assuming he doesn't like slip on the icy ground or something. I guess I shouldn't say that. So that's a natural one, but it's a 5 total. Yeah, I know. Just beautiful game science dice. Thanks a lot.
No, it's great. So the good news is that you do slip and basically fall and land behind the troll. The reason why that's good news is because even doing that triggers Mutt's ready to action. So, Mutt, if you would like to do that, I will actually still give you the sneak attack advantage because of Tracy sliding into this troll.
Yeah, perfect. Because all I need is that I just need an ally within 5 feet of this guy who's like conscious, basically. So, oh man, sweet. Okay, so that is a 19 on the die, so that's 22 on the short bow. And then 5 plus I just 1 on the sneak attack, so 6 piercing damage total. So Mutt is sort of just behind cover waiting, and as soon as he sees Tracy just go sliding into this troll, he just pops out, arrow to quiver, bam, and pops an arrow off. And I imagine that it sinks sort of in between the troll's sort of collarbone and throat, just like right in the meat there.
Yeah, that's perfect. And as it lands, you could see that as he was towering over Derry, you could see that he took his pinky and he was just slicing an area in there, and the ward underneath Derry began to glow, and it was about to just erupt, probably ending Derry's life. And as he was doing this, you see that your arrow struck from behind cover, struck directly in the center of that, and you saw the ward fade as the glyph was broken. So you did kind of make that connection, like, okay, mess with the glyphs, destroy the wards.
And I imagine that Mutt did not intentionally do that, but it was sort of like he made the realization after it happened, and he absolutely takes credit for it and says, "You're welcome."
So you did move, you found cover, you readied your action, and then we're going to go ahead and go back to Severus.
Yeah, so seeing this, the effect of this glyph, I'm assuming I would have noticed that too. And I think I will. I'm scrambling here. I'm backing up first of all, as far to the wall as I can. But seeing this, what Mutt has done, I am going to just kind of lower my staff, and I'm going to unleash another couple magic missiles. This one, I realized it doesn't say that I'm making an attack. But
magic missile automatically hits. It's one of those. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I did that wrong last time. All right. So that is going to be a total of 7 damage.
Nice. That's nice for a magic missile roll. So are you aiming for anything in particular? Because you said you did notice.
Yeah, so I'm aiming at the glyph. Yep.
Okay, cool. So
so I imagine these things kind of go straight, but then I'm controlling them, and they're just
totally love that. Slinging them like the movie Wanted, like sending it around corners. So as you do hit, because there are glyphs on the troll and on the floor, and they sort of seem to correspond. Are you shooting for the ones on the floor?
The ones on the floor.
Perfect. So you do sort of knock one out, and the troll sort of winces in pain as you see sort of this burn mark as you all are hitting these glyphs. And I hit my microphone. The burn marks are filling in what were scars. So it's kind of like they're searing closed, like these glyphs are no longer working. So as you strike the one on the floor, a prominent one on his back sort of sears closed like burnt scar tissue.
Cool.
Now, are you going to move at all? I think you're muted.
Yep. Sorry. I'm not really moving any further back. I'm just kind of moving nervously against the back wall.
For sure. And just to kind of give some insight as to what I'm doing, I'm running the encounter, the Mad Troll, with a twist that I kind of just improv'd, in the location, the Altar of Sorrow, and I'm in the toolbox using the monster stats for this level, and I'm making it sort of a deadly challenge as far as the what the troll does. So These guys knew what encounter I was running, but I think it was still in an interesting enough way that there was not expectations, and they were able to still find surprise and adventure in it.
Totally.
So it's back to the troll. So the troll is going to reach down and just try to probably slash your throat, Derry. He wants your book.
Great. I see him maybe eyeing the book, and I look at the
absolutely.
book, and then I look up at him, and then here comes the slash.
And so one hand is just kind of slashing at the book. The other hand is trying to slash at your throat.
How many hands does he have? Did the troll have?
2 for now.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought he didn't have a hand.
Oh, you're right. I forgot. That is totally a DM football.
Yeah.
He's got like at least 2.
At least 2 hands. 2 to 4
you know.
hands. Hold on, no. Using the GM toolkit, I can roll here and say 7 hands.
He's got 1d4 hands.
How many hands is this
If we
monster?
count the one coming out of his knee,
He's got the old knee hand, buddy.
the old switcheroo, man. The old fake amputee.
He's a Vietnam vet troll. He's Charlie Day in it. Oh, okay, so he's grabbing at the book with his bone nub.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to poke it like a trash picker.
He could probably pull a Sheila on it and just step on the book with his arm. You don't need a hand to hold the book down.
Nope. And so, you know what? Just for flavor's sake, I'm going to say he is trying to stab you with his bone nub. And that's a 15
Awesome.
on the die. That's a 15 on the die. Good catch, though.
It goes right through Gary Gygax's face on the Gen Con shirt, and it just, it hits. Strikes true.
Oh, good. It does 7 damage.
It does. Anyone who's looking at Derry will see that the pain that he feels, he just winces in not pain, but shock and surprise as he sees this shard of bone sticking out, almost like this, almost like if he had a hook for a hand, but it's natural, and it just goes in Derry's flesh, and he grabs at the troll's arm, attempting to push it out, but he's not strong enough. As he's stabbed with what might be a mortal wound, he's grievously injured by this.
Yeah. And the troll leaves that hand just lodged, like purposefully, like jarring it around and trying to scrape and push and do as much collateral damage to anything connected. And
you see blood come out of Derry's mouth.
And with his good hand, his one that exists in canon, and he tries to grab the book from you. Are you able to fight that?
No, I don't think I am, because I've already described I've lost the book, and when I describe something, it stays that way for the whole encounter usually. I'm sorry, just kidding. No, he doesn't have the book on him, and he's so hyper-focused on this grievous injury that he can't think of anything else.
Gotcha. So that is the troll's turn, and now Derry, it is actually your turn.
Derry's going to try to pull this arm out using just raw strength that he doesn't have. He doesn't have much strength, but he's going to try.
He's going to use cooked strength.
That is a total 15.
Okay, that'll do it. You're able
see-
to unnub yourself.
You see Dr. Derry just channel his strength through his voice as he's screaming as loud as he can, and the reverberations in the room actually make the whole place maybe utter and shudder a little bit. And in just slow motion, he pulls this gargantuan, jagged bone knife out of his body with strength that wouldn't exist in any normal circumstances.
And you're bleeding out pretty badly. Is there anything else you want to do?
Nope. Back away, maybe, like attempt to crawl away as much as I can.
Okay. And the troll lets you. He has the book now and 3 hands. No, I'm kidding. But the troll does let you. The troll does let you sort of crawl away. You're not a threat anymore. And
It's clear that he wanted the book.
Yeah. And so, Mutt, what are you doing?
Is there still an ally of some kind within 5 feet of the troll, either Tracy or Derry?
Yeah, both. I would say Derry maybe doesn't count, but Tracy did the baseball slide behind him and is still on the ground. So yeah, that still counts.
So I'm going to take another shot with my short bow, popping out from cover to do so. That is a 10 total on the die. So I don't think that hits.
Nope,
okay,
doesn't hit.
So I take the shot, use an arrow, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a cunning action to hide. I'm going to try and sort of conceal myself, taking a move action to another place of cover and trying to hide from the troll as best I can. So I'm going to go ahead and do a stealth roll here. And that's a 12 on the stealth. No, actually 14 on the stealth. I forgot I had expertise.
Gotcha. All right, so especially because no one's paying attention, you are absolutely able to do that easily.
Cool, awesome. Trying to get advantage on this mofo.
True that. And I think maybe Hangouts is glitching up because it's saying, is it stuck on me? Because
Stuck on you?
I'm asking is the camera just on me because I'm not clicked on anyone is the trouble.
So it's actually, it looks like it's glitching out. I'm watching the, yeah, I was watching the video feed for a little bit. It looks like it's on you right now, but I'm not live. So
let me drop out real quick and I'll just rejoin.
Yeah,
Okay.
mine, like, just, I wasn't even touching the computer. Mine crashed and just kicked me out. Like, just Chrome had a problem. And so I'm like, well.
There was a moment where things kind of froze up for me too. So
yeah, I'm not looking forward to the day when Hangouts just stops working entirely and we have to figure out a new way to easily stream games without too much hassle. That's just going to be a dark, dark day.
This troll is in the mainframe.
He's in the mainframe.
He's got his best hand in it.
The troll now has 10 hands.
1d10 hands.
Oh man, you couldn't roll that on damage, but you sure did roll on troll hands.
Anyone who's watching
Really
this,
well on amount of troll hands.
run the Oath of the Frozen King and make it a troll with multiple hands, like a troll hydra or something like that. Do that, and you'll get props, I guess.
Roll a d6 every round to add hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Until eventually you're just fighting this big. You can call him the coat of arms, actually.
The coat of arms.
So you are sneaking around trying to get advantage, and I lost the chat, so I don't know who was next. But is it Tracy? Yeah, Tracy then Severus, I think.
Yeah, my turn. So lying on the roll, I was reading the chat. Lying on the ground after baseball sliding, Tracy does his best to get up and still watching, having watched his longtime friend, first-time caller, Dr. Barry, laying there with a nub inside of him. He gets up and he tries to slash some of these runes that are on this troll with this awful, terrible short sword he found. Hopefully not rolling a 1 this time. No, on a different die. So 16.
You do it big.
Yeah. Okay, but that's kind of not a great here. There we go. Oh, and I get a 5. So 7 damage total.
Okay. The troll, and you can see that when your axe hits the glyph, it splits and his flesh begins to burn. And underneath that, you see that the wound heals itself just a little bit. And you're the only one that's close enough to have noticed that the damage you're doing might be destroying the wards, but it doesn't seem to be hurting the troll as much as you might think.
That makes sense.
All right, so now it is... Oh, well, is there anything else you'd like to do?
No, that's basically it. Yeah, I slash him and I continue to stay engaged with him, and probably would call his mother a whore, but I don't know how trolls work.
Just like that. So, all right. So now it is Severus's turn.
All right, so I'm still kind of just skittish, backing against the wall here. I'm trying to find a good angle. You know, I know that my friends are engaged with this troll, and I'm trying to just find a good angle to fire another spell, basically. And I kind of kneel down, and I find like an opening, and I'm going to extend my staff, and I'm going to cast Firebolt this time, which does require an attack roll.
Do it big.
I would like to find my D20, please. What the?
I'll allow it.
I'll use this one. All right, there we go. Oh man, that one didn't serve me well though. Okay, so that's going to be a 7 to hit.
That does not hit.
Okay.
But you light Tracy on fire.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh gosh.
Everest is like, Derry, I'll save you. Lights him on fire. He's just immolated on the ground.
Give him a hug.
Oh man.
He doesn't
Warm,
even
though.
stir. He doesn't even move.
He's warm.
No, that actually would be great. So actually, James, do take a D4 of fire damage for real, because that actually would make sense to me.
So I am fine with taking a D4 of damage, but I would like to note that I am wearing ring mail and not necessarily something that would catch fire. Only a 1. You know what? I'm going to stop talking. Don't listen to what I said. I only took 1 damage. I'm good.
All right. So Severus, is there anything else you wanted to do? You mentioned possibly wanting to get like in a different vantage point or anything. So are you literally going to try to do that, or are you just sticking with the firebolt and kind of weighing your options?
Yeah, at this point, I would probably move forward just a little bit, like maybe 5-10 feet, just a little closer, thinking like, okay, I missed him. I'm sorry.
And, you know, especially as a tiefling, one who understands fire, you find it difficult to even cast a spell like that in this place because it's so cold.
Yeah, I imagine I temporarily enjoy a bit of warmth and then just immediately back to just shivering and cold.
Absolutely. And as the troll turns, he slashes himself because Tracy is standing right on top of one of the wards. And so a 17. So you need to give me a dexterity save, actually, to get off the ward. You're muted.
I was muted. 8 total.
8 total. All right. So
Yeah.
you take full damage. That's going to be... That's 5 damage. Cold damage just blasts right in front of you. He cuts himself.
There was a question earlier, so this was a couple days later, I think. Did we take a rest, or were we at full? Were we at the same? Because I took a lot of damage in that beginning part. Do I take some of that? Can I use a hit die, something, or am I at what I was at? I'm fine with either way. I just wasn't.
Sure. I think,
caught up on that.
to be fair, you would be rested, I would assume, because it's been days. So even if you got some rest here, I think that over 6 days you'd find some rest, certainly.
Okay, awesome. All right, sweet.
All right, and so as that happens and you take this damage and you're sort of trying to move out of the way, the troll is actually going to swipe at you as well. And that's a 15 for 7 points of damage.
So I actually have a ton of armor now. It's not quite a 17. You were talking to me, right? It's not quite 17 because I don't have a shield, but that's only +1. So my armor class is actually 16. So he would.
Oh, he would miss. He would miss. Yeah. I just assume that everyone's so low that a 15 hits everyone.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. Everyone else is like 11 and 10. I'm like, no, I brought
yeah,
armor.
you know, it's whatever. It's really whatever. All right. So now it is Derry's turn.
Derry spends it feels like a long moment that he spends on the floor or trying to regain himself, standing up with this gaping wound in his abdomen. He's cold, shivering. He doesn't feel much in terms of appendages, but he can still move his hands. and he just tries to visualize what he had written in the book. And he motions his hands in a figure 8, and he says, Schwestes, Morcis, Fuegus! And he holds his hands out and creates a scorching ray. 3 rays of fire hurled at targets within range. I can hurl them at one target or several. And I'm going to hurl all 3 at that spell book.
That's tasty.
That's tasty.
That's tasty.
So I make a ranged spell attack for each ray. It's probably going to be very difficult because it's a small object, but the first one is an 8, so that's not very good. The second one is a 9, so that's not very good. Come on. That was a 19. Plus 5 is 24. That's a 24 at the spellbook.
Real quick, is he holding it?
Yes. And so what's going to happen is...
Well, I only asked because he also slashed me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but maybe he nubbed me. I was just trying to figure out for sake of I was thinking maybe it might be easier because he put it down because he's attacking us, but he probably just nubbed me.
I thought we
I can hold the book
established...
between my arm and my body.
I was going to say, I thought we established he has like 7 hands at this point.
It's true. He's just got the knee hand. I forgot about the knee hand.
His burnt glyphs are grabbing stuff. It's so good. He also has a troll nose.
He's one of them Cthulhu trolls with tentacles.
He is.
Dude, that'd be dope.
There you go.
That'd be so rad.
Dope. Yeah, that actually would be super cool.
Adding to the toolkit after this session.
Yeah. Add Cthulhu troll to tool.
So if I were a smart DM, what I would have said the first time I realized, I said, oh, actually, he's got a spectral blue hand similar to the power from the sword.
Ah, that is smart.
Mm-hmm.
He, in fact, used it to hand wave that.
Jesus, James.
Oh, man. You take a point of inspiration, and then you can't have it, though.
Then you got to give it right
You got to
back.
give it right back.
But you can hold it for like a second.
Just one, like, here. No, it's cool.
It's a spectral blue point of inspiration that just dissipates.
He's like, it's so warm.
It's so warm. It's like one of those hot stones. Ooh. Can I just put it on my neck? So, essentially, this third flaming spell, the first one flies shy. The other one, this third one strikes the book. And immediately, your book is burning in effigy. Just, and the troll is not ready for this. And before he can drop it, it lights his mangy, oily hair. And so I just realized that I described that he looks like Heat Miser, but he doesn't. So, but the book erupts and sets this troll on fire. He drops the flaming husk of the book as it burns from the edges towards the spine. It's not gone yet. And he's just covered in these glyphs that seem to sort of fill with the flames as well. And he's just burning and begins to sort of run in a circle, more or less, just trying to put himself out. And so now it is actually Mutt's turn.
Okay, so I am concealed now, so the troll has no idea where I am. For some reason, I just imagine like the troll is kind of freaking out. He's trying to put himself out, and sort of out of focus behind him, you just see this black shape like just kind of manifesting behind him as Mutt like comes up out from cover. And then the camera shifts focus, and you just see the walking bag of garbage, the human dumpster fire, as Lloyd said, drawn back on the bow. And he's going to drop an arrow into him with advantage. Okay. I wish I made this up. 19.
Nice.
So that'll be, with the sneak attack damage, that'll be 11 damage with the bow.
So describe to me what it looks like as you execute this troll who's burning.
So again, you know, Mutt just kind of almost materializes behind him. Mutt's not very good at a lot of things, but he's very good at a couple of things, and this is one of them. And he rises up behind the troll, draws back, and fires. And the arrow actually appears out of one of the troll's eye sockets. You just see this arrowhead just, and the eye just pops like a grape. And the troll sinks to his knees, still like absently trying to put the fire out, even though his brain has been pierced with an arrow. And then he just falls on the ground, twitches, and the fire begins to consume him. And Mutt says something like, he like tries to say a cool one-liner. He's like, "That's it. That's what that'll teach you to be a troll." And he kind of like looks to his companions for approval.
And Tracy just excited about it, like absolutely, you know, probably wouldn't have gotten it if he hadn't come up with a clever pun or otherwise said something funny. He goes, "Yeah, being a troll. Oh yeah, that's awful, especially when you get shot in the face." Like just piggybacking right on it. Very like Drax style. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's right. And I would then like I see that Derry is hurt but still alive, and so I will begin retrieving my arrows.
Derry, in the kind of muttering underneath bloody breath, will say, "Don't forget to record everything, Mutt." And he'll spit some blood out, and he'll move over to the flaming husk of the book to see what's left.
And Severus would move over to Dr. Derry and just, you don't seem well. We gotta get you some help.
Did you know that because of your extraordinary medical experience, Severus?
We got to help this guy. Tim, would it be possible for me to, like, I don't know. Never mind. Nope.
Sorry, I give up.
Yep.
Just hand me my stuff. Because he can't reach down to grab it. He's in too much pain.
Yeah, Severus was like, "Can I magic missile the wall to hopefully get a healing on the wild magic table?" It's like, you know what? Actually, maybe not.
No, I was gonna, think about a medicine check, but I don't know if I would be thinking that way. He's spitting out blood. I don't know if I would see an obvious wound. I guess that's what I would ask Tim. Do I see an obvious wound?
I would say
or
absolutely.
Barker.
Yeah, I would say. Well, yeah, Barker. Yeah, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's nothing in the rules that says that it's like some sort of bleeding out or anything, but I feel like it makes sense to role play it that way given the intensity of the wound. So yeah, you definitely see he's got his bloody hand held over a wound to his abdomen, a puncture wound, but it's obvious, it's superfluous to have his hand there. It's like, I mean, that's not going to stop anything.
Yeah, so I guess I would take probably some of my give up a little bit more of my warmth here for some of these scraps of whatever I have around me and try to wrap his abdomen, basically, if he would allow it.
I would allow it. Dr. Derry would allow it. And I imagine you call him Derry at some point and he corrects you. It's Dr. Derry.
All right, Doc, just hold still. Tim, do you want me to roll a medicine check?
I would love that.
Oh man, that's a 19. Yeah, so that's a 20.
So with the 20, based on kind of what you're describing to me and how this is not something you're very familiar with, but to me, I think it's a very clear sort of specific wound. And maybe you have had experience with this particular wound. Maybe it's just a lucky chance that, oh, hey, I knew someone that died of a wound like this, whatever it is, but you're able to essentially pack the wound with enough dirty frozen dressing. Maybe you wipe some frost in there. I don't know what you do, but it does stabilize him from bleeding out and dying for sure.
Yeah, I imagine I would probably grab some frost or ice or something nearby and kind of almost pack that in with just to, and just wrap this thing as much as I can. And I'm just shivering the whole time, like as I'm giving up some of my warmth here. But I know Dr. Derry has been valuable to us, and we'll need him to get out of here.
He's been afraid to look at the remains of the book this whole time, but he finally glances over to see what's left of it.
Most of the spine and about half of the page width. So it seems like the fire struck the corner of the book while it was closed and began burning from the edges all the way in. So there are a lot of pages, but most of them are only half of the page. And there are some that are intact toward the back.
Thank you for the bandages, Severus, but one more favor, please. Could you hand me the book? There was something in there that he needed.
Of course, here. And I would retrieve it for him, kind of gingerly trying to hold it on my arms because it's, I'm afraid of being burned here, even though I imagine it's not hot anymore.
He would look to Tracy and asking for his assistance since he's on his staff. Look for something that resembles anything here. The runes, the language written on the floor, the sword itself. And upon Tracy's enamorment with something else, he would start flipping through the book himself. He'd lick his finger and just flip through to try to find something.
Sorry, did you ask Tracy to look through a book?
I did.
Oh, I don't think Tracy can read. What is the maximum? What do you have to be able to read?
That's like
probably higher than what you have.
That's what I mean. I'm like,
what's your intelligence?
Sorry, I missed you. Ask Tracy.
My favorite thing is look at his character portrait. I'm going to click on him. That's what it looks like when you ask him to read.
Because he doesn't want you to know he doesn't know how to read.
So there's like
one beady eye, just like, huh?
If I act angry at everything, no one knows I'm stupid.
Yeah, he's like, is it common? I don't know common.
Is it common?
He will flip through, though, and try to find anything that looks similar.
Sure. And it's actually through this particular happenstance, it benefits you because this fire did more work than your brain could. Because it took away some of the things you didn't need to know. And by removing some of the wrong information, it gave you a clear picture of the information. And so you're able to piece together the real answer, which is, it's very clear. The way to get that sword and deactivate it is simply to scrawl very specific 4 wards in the ice of the altar. By doing that, it deactivates the power of the sword, and it can be yours. And that's what your book tells you, and you're certain of it.
Upon seeing the book become everything I need and nothing I don't, he will inform his friends that, yes, we must here, and he'll start directing people around to carve these wards in.
And I would probably be pretty interested by this and kind of be doing this with my staff and trying to really make sure they're perfect and just coming back to looking at the book and going back to where I was drawing this ward.
And if you gave him specific enough instructions, I think it's big enough that Tracy would be able to do it with his sword. Based on if you're you would probably need a lot of direction, but he'd be able to kind of carve in and help out.
And Mutt, after trying to pull the arrow out of the troll's skull and snapping it in the process, kind of throws the arrow down in frustration and goes, all right, what are we doing? Everyone's already working on the plan, halfway done with it. And he's like, all right, what are we doing?
And Darius, you sort of wrangle them to finally etch these wards in, on the different pieces of the room, and then you yourself with a meticulous hand sort of swiping your finger on the frost of the altar itself. The blue energies, the ice sort of fades away, and for the first time you don't feel freezing. It's still cold, but you don't feel as freezing as you once did.
I think it's, well, Dr. Derry will reach forward to attempt to grab the sword.
And probably not realizing what everybody was doing, and then seeing you do it again, Tracy would, tell you to stop. Wait, like, what are you doing? Why would you do that again?
What happens?
You grab the sword without incident.
All right. Good job, Doc. And I'll kind of clap him on the back, forgetting that he's like mortally wounded.
He'll fall forward in a little bit of a coughing fit, but he'll stand back up and he'll hand over the sword to the first person he sees next to him, which is probably Mutt.
As you're handing it to him, he just kind of like absentmindedly like takes it, not really thinking, and then when he realizes it's the rune blade, he wow and like drops it on the ground. And then he goes, "Oh right, you fixed it. Well, I'll take it because I know a guy who would be willing to buy it. But in the essence of what do you call it, Doc? Self-preservation. I think Tracy should take it."
All right. And Tracy would take it and swing it around, like a little too close to you guys. Like just kind of like, woo, woo, woo. I imagine it's making those cool sounds. Woo, 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 and like almost taking your eye out.
You're doing a Conan Atlantean blade.
Yeah, like just got a whole, like just 100%. Like that's what he's doing. And then he drops it and it clangs like to the ground, like. And he just kind of looks at everybody and kind of walks over and gets it and puts it away, like in his belt or something.
So ends night number 6. It's several days, nearly weeks. Somehow, Derry survives. Somehow, all of you seem with barely enough rations, maybe a few less fingers, to manage your way to the entrance. You exit the maw of black ice. And as you exit the tomb, you see 2 eyes that seem so familiar. And you're relieved, because you know these eyes. But then you see that they're glowing blue. And you see a pale, disfigured humanoid step into the light with a mangled chest and gut. I told you that Myrta was powerful. And I told you that she was fierce. And you're not surprised to see what she's done. She dealt the killing blow to the Frozen King. And his frozen heart that was pierced by her blade now hovers heavy and cold in her mangled chest. Her fiery red hair burns in the night air, intermingled with a crown of bone and ice. The Frozen Queen attacks you with her unadorned sword as she utters a new oath over the land of Varnholm. Those who tell your tale say that you died quickly, but they're wrong. And that's where we're going to end it.
Nice. Dude, and her
Damn.
chest was open and
Damn.
everything. Like, that's perfect. Nice.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That
That
was
was so
fun.
much. That was so much fun. I had so much fun.
Dude, the
Man.
chaos in that, man. Just like knowing that any moment, like a die roll will determine everything that happens or doesn't happen to you. That was awesome.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that the next game I run won't be 3d6. Even if with nothing else, we'll have equipment, whatever. But like, I want to play with people that are bad at stuff. You might be good at something, but I want people to be bad. It's not, when we play usually, especially level 3, level 5, you like roll and you're like, of course I picked the lock. I have a +7. You
Yep.
know, it's like, whatever. I'm like, no, I want it to be like, yeah, like what not to say that I'm not sure how I would feel about OSR games, like real ones, because like reading some of the comments people were saying, like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna dip my foot in first before I'm like, you know what? No items, Fox only, Final Destination. Like, I'm not ready for that.
And so it's funny. So two things I want to make sure that are very clear. One, the reason why I narrated that is because who knows? Maybe those characters are still alive. They're very likely dead, but I wanted to leave this gray area there because I think it is cool. But the other thing I was going to say, this is what I've learned about OSR gaming. To me, this is the curve. You learn about D&D nowadays, and it's 5e, and it's awesome. And you're epic. And you're Wolverine or Captain America, just in fantasy terms. You know, you're this awesome character. And that goes on for a while. And then eventually, you kind of hit this point where it's cool if you're not powerful. And I think that's the draw of OSR gaming. And so that's what I was feeling with this tonight.
Prime example that happened in this game is Dr. Derry failed his athletics check and fell to the bottom of the pit. He failed his athletics check and could not shove away the chains. And at the very, very end, he succeeded at pulling the troll's pokey hand out of his gut. And to me, that was an incredible moment because of the failures. And so, yeah, all day, man, I'm all in on that. I'm a subscriber.
And I'm a both and kind of guy. I love 5e and our campaign World of Dragongrin and the way that it is pretty high powered, but the bad guys are high powered. I think those things can live together. Like, I love a really good gourmet burger, but I love going and eating a Bacon King. Like, there's nothing wrong with both. They just have their place in my fat belly.
Yeah, I feel like I've been like flirting with OSR stuff for like a couple of years at this point, and I keep like almost getting in the water, just like and then I'm like, oh, but there's this thing that I don't like about it, or this thing, and but I love taking some of the OSR sensibilities and the OSR sort of mechanics and just kind of plugging them in, because 5th edition sort of has some OSR sensibilities to it because it has so much inspiration from the original D&D and 2nd edition stuff, and so I love that those things still work in 5th edition without necessarily like breaking the system or making it feel like a totally different system.
Yeah,
and when it comes to the adventure kit, dude, perfect. Like, I feel like you could have adjusted it, and I know this is the case, but you could have adjusted it to make it harder if we were those heroic characters. Like, you could have made it more difficult, or like, it's just super, you choose the balance. There's no such thing as overpowered in a game where you literally decide where the balance of power lies.
Yeah. And to that point, part of why I love not being crazy heroic is for some reason it feels better to roll and miss it because you have a -2 in charisma and not because the DC was 18. You know, like, there's just a little something about it where, like you said, you set the balance. So if we all have this, and obviously, you know, if we were trying to play perfectly balanced, it would be up to Tim to make sure that, okay, he doesn't kill all of us in an hour. But like you said, but if we're all on the same page there, it's like, well, yeah, the GM decides. But I just love, like, I took like 10 damage and we didn't fight something. You know what I mean? Like, at first, it was that's never really happened to me.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate all of you who watched. If you are still interested in the adventure kit, but you haven't backed the Kickstarter yet, you can do that. The link is in the dungeon below. We have, I think, once this video goes live and processes and everything like that, I think it'll be 4 days left. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, 4 days left as of midnight.
Right.
As of noon tomorrow.
All right. So we're basically, when this video, when you probably watch it, if you're not watching live, we'll have 4 days left. And we're fully funded, but we are really excited about how flexible and all the feedback we're getting as far as how useful this kit is. So we'll go ahead and do some outros. And this time I'll start from my left to my right. And so Barker, let's kick it off with you.
Hey everybody, I am Barker and I'm 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop. First of all, thank you, Nate, for being kind of the guinea pig of the group, jumping in here with the 4 of us who have had a hand in writing the Frozen King. But like, thanks for all of the time adjustments and schedule adjustments for the game. It was awesome that we got to play. Thanks to everybody. I cannot stress this enough. I was asked the other day, are you shocked at the amount of support you've received for the Kickstarter? Yes, absolutely. We are never not shocked. We were shocked the day we launched and we had 200 people willing to support us and keep an eye on the countdown on the website. We were shocked when we formed the AbTab community and had this influx of new faces, new people that became content creators themselves. This AbTab is only as strong as the community around it, and I offer my ultra thanks to every single person who has had faith in us enough to back the Oath of the Frozen King, which is almost completely done. And just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can never say it enough.
And James, good luck following that.
Oh yeah, man. Barker had his Emmy speech. Dude, I was starting to play him off. I'm like, all right, buddy. He said quick outros. No, it was really good, and I agree. I agree with what Barker said. Like, it doesn't feel like a thing that should happen when, like you said, from getting 100 people in like a couple of weeks of just having a sign up and saying, guys, we're going to try something cool, to $25,000 on a Kickstarter. I'm like, it's never like, yeah, I saw that coming. Like, yeah, we've been doing this long enough. We just, we got a handle on it. I'm like, no, it's really amazing. And it is really awesome to know that there are people out there that see that we're doing something and they immediately go say, I want to support these guys, and hopefully it's a cool product. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. Like I said, I don't know if I'm ready for like full OSR, looking up graphs and only playing humans or whatever, but I kind of really loved this style and what we did, and it was sort of a different side of stuff. A different side of D&D that I haven't really played before, so I really enjoyed it.
For sure. And I'm an OSR tourist. Like, don't expect that all of what I did was even the best way to convert 5e, but I had great players, and this is me doing what Matt was saying. I'm like, I've been flirting with it probably for the last 4 or 5 months, and I thought, let's do it, and these guys were game. So, Matt, what's up, man?
Not much, just playing some D&D. So my name is Matt. I run the channel A Fistful of Dice, and I write RPG books over at AbsoluteTabletop.com. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and thank you so much for just all the support we've been getting. Like, Barker said it better than I could, but just thank you. And if you haven't checked out the Kickstarter, then please do so. And I love gaming with these guys. These 4 turds are my favorite people to game with in the world, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This was an awesome Friday. Thanks, guys.
Wrapping it up with Nate.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and this was awesome. I'm really stoked about Oath of the Frozen King. I got to run it as well, and it's super slick, and I can't wait to run it some more because it's so easy to do that with, just multiple times and tweaking things. And Tim, I really loved your use of the the toolkit. I didn't really use that much when I played, so I'm excited to try it. But yeah, I run the channel WASD20. Sometime this weekend, I'll just give a quick plug. I think tomorrow, my Reaper Bones 3 Kickstarter is coming in the mail. So sometime this weekend, I'm hoping to do an unboxing of that on the channel, showing off tons, the mother load of miniatures. I'm excited for that. Yeah, head over to the Kickstarter for these guys. It's an awesome product. So, yep.
For sure. And so for those of you who have stuck it out until the end, you are here. It is the end of the video. I'm going to give you a quick treat. I will let you know that we have had the question come up twice at least. Are you going to be writing more adventure kits? And I'm not going to give you specifics, but I will say yes. And I will also say that we have already begun. One of the things about Absolute Tabletop is that we can't stop writing. Sometimes we should be writing one thing and we're writing a totally different one. But I will say that we do plan on making many more adventure kits in the years to come. And there are already some that are being written that we're very excited to share with you. So back this one, but keep your eye out for more adventure kits in the future. So thank you so much for watching. Guys, thanks for the game. It was a lot of fun. And until next time, may your dice roll high.